meeting of the Council's Cabinet. It's going to be webcast. So hello to everybody, to our listener. I'm sure there are thousands out there. Before we start these proceedings, may I bring to your attention some housekeeping matters? There's no expected fire alarm. So if the fire alarm does sound, it's real. And please get out through that door following the fire emergency procedures, leaving by the nearest fire exit. Please can I ask to use, if you use your microphone when addressing the meeting, but that is switched off when you're not using it. And can you please ensure that your mobile devices are turned to silent, he says, looking at himself. Can I ask, please, are there any apologies for today's meeting, Jamie?
Thank you, Leader. There's no apologies today.
Okay, thank you. In which case, I'll move on to item 2, which is declarations of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest in respect of any of the items on the agenda? No? Lovely. Move on to item 3, which is the minutes of the previous meeting, which was on the 9th of February. Can I sign those as a true and accurate record, please?
Great.
Thank you very much. I'll do that. It'll take me about 3 weeks to do, given the thickness of these. We did do a lot last meeting, and we're going to do a lot today. So I'm going to go on to item number 4 now, which is questions from members of the public. There are 3 questions being submitted. Anybody turned up to ask them, Jamie?
Thank you, Leader. No members of the public have arrived today, so proposed they're sent out to them and included in the minutes.
That's what we will do. Thank you very much indeed. Can we now move on to item 5, which is Chair's urgent business. Do I have any urgent business, Jamie?
No urgent business today, Leader.
I have no urgent business today. That's not what I heard, but nothing that I've got to interrupt you with today. City Living Framework and Master Plan is item 6. Now, we've got an all-star cast with us today, people. We've got, obviously, our regular people, Stuart, who's the programme director of City Centre these days. David Draffen, frequent visitor to this parish, Service Director for Economic Development. We've also got Jim Coleman from WSP. We've got Graham Devine from LHC and Glenn Howells from Howells Architects, who's, it says here, online. There he is. Hello, Glenn. So what we intend to do now is basically talk about one of the most exciting things that's going to happen to us in the next few years. We had some very important guests at a few weeks ago when we did the City of Culture bid, didn't we? We had that Tom Cleverley from Plymouth Argyle. We had the Chief Exec from Homes England supporting our stuff. And you know, we do have from time to time, as I say, very important visitors. But today, the team we've got assembled here to undertake our City Living Framework, we really are excited about. And I'm going to let Mark do the introductions and all the eulogies and everything like that. But I wanted to just say a little something before we start, if that's okay. It shouldn't come as any surprise to people now to know that we're very ambitious for housing in this city. And it's not just a nice to have. We've talked before about Plymouth's economy forecast to reach 13.5 billion by 2035, 25 billion by 2050. That's incredible growth, isn't it? Compared with where we were last year. 70% growth in the first case and 200% growth in the second. These are huge numbers. I mean, the defence-driven growth alone will require 10,880 homes with most of this demand going to be in the next 8 years. Without these new homes and without being able to attract new talent into the city, there are risks of delay to that dockyard project. In other words, risk of delay to a project of national infrastructure. Now, we've set out our commitment to regenerate the city centre by bringing housing back into the central area. We've signed an MOU with Homes England, who has already funded us to the tune of 34 million to deliver housing at Bass Street. Excitingly, nearly about to start that, and the Civic Centre, of course. We've also been shortlisted as one of the dirty dozen, the 12 potential sites to become one of the government's new towns. Now, we recognise this is a big change for the city, and unlike many places in the UK, we here in Plymouth have forgotten what it's like to live in the city centre. We used to proudly, well not so proudly, but we used to have the densest housing in the UK, even more dense here than the Gorbals in terms of the number of people who live per square mile. But that was not the case post-war, which we swapped urban living for suburban living. And that, although was an absolute treat for the people who'd been used to living in those appalling conditions pre-war, actually now sows different problems for us. But what we've got here with a city that is unused to urban living is a real fantastic opportunity to show what urban living is like when you get it right. So we want to see quality architecture. That'll be you, that will, Glenn. We want to see superb shopping. We want to see great public transport. We want to see a great cultural scene and a vibrant nighttime and evening economy. That's what this is all about. It'll be a place where people want to live. So this is what we've asked WSP to undertake for us, to capture this vision in a new city centre living framework. I am excited about this. And I wanted the Cabinet to hear directly from the team, who are pretty stellar about the work that they're going to do, and how everybody can get involved. So I'm going to ask Mark to introduce the team, if you would.
Thank you, Leader. Urban living is always a challenge to deliver, and we've not done it for quite some time in the United Kingdom. But we're about to embark on it now, and I've heard from the team on a number of occasions and what they've been doing. And it gives me a high degree of confidence that we're going to get this right. We're going to do what you've referred to, making sure we provide quality architecture, public realm, green spaces that people want to use and engage with, the community engage with this master planning process we're going through. And if we do get this right, we can be the showcase for the United Kingdom, because there's opportunities in all city centres across the UK to change the way they are. You know, you referred to the density of housing in the city centre. That's somewhere between 8 and 10%, particularly low based on our planning processes. But there's an opportunity for us to change that and get that right. So we've got, as you've mentioned, I'm going to let them do their own introduction. We've got Jim, Glenn, Alex and Graham. They're an incredibly experienced team that bring a lot of knowledge and capability to this council to help us deliver this master plan. So perhaps, David, you can start with your team, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think without further ado, I think it's best I just introduce straight to Jim, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, to be in Plymouth. I'm going to introduce the project that we've been assigned to undertake, and also the wider team. I'm joined today by Glenn Howells, Graham Devine and Alex Ely. Alex is on a train on the way to the south of France, so that might restrict his ability to participate, but he'll... Let's see, let's see. I mean, I think the first thing to say is we feel extraordinarily privileged to have been appointed to take on this assignment. Plymouth is a unique city in the United Kingdom. Its characteristics, its features, natural and built, make it absolutely unique. And it's a city that I've spent some time in the past, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. And that uniqueness has been, if you like, extended by the current kind of policy environment that we find ourselves in, the role of defence and security, the protection of the realm. Even in the last 2 weeks, I think we've seen how important that is going to be in the future. Plymouth is one of the most important cities in the country, one of the most important cities in Europe, in my mind, in terms of defence and security. And that brings a lot of investment and a dividend, really, which will play out very positively for the city in lots of ways if we plan properly. So it's a unique experience for us, and we're very excited to be part of this process of reimagining Plymouth city centre in the light of these various changes. We're developing two key things. One is a framework for the city centre, the central area of the city, which is the strategic plan, if you like, which is really driven by the defence priority, but also the new towns policy and other things. And we'll focus on the way that the city functions as a place, how different locations within the city centre are developed and taken forward, and how the city becomes an improved place for everyone, those people who have lived here all of their lives, and also people who may come to live or may come to visit the city. And that will also look at infrastructure, we'll look at housing, of course, we'll look at transport, we'll look at social infrastructure, we'll look at public realm, public places. And we're also undertaking a more detailed piece of work, which is more the master plan for the immediate city centre core, the focus of which will be around housing and all of the implications of more housing in the city centre, how we address the needs of a changing population through services, through utilities, through access to green space, access to services, etc. I'd like to introduce the team. My name is Jim Coleman. I'm Head of Economic Advisory, Chief Economist with WSP. My background is very much looking at city economies around the country, but also around the world, and helping clients and city authorities, governments to improve the functioning of cities, to make them better as economic systems, economic structures, but places that generate opportunity for people, jobs, access to services, access to green space, making them more resilient, more sustainable, making cities function better as they deal with changes, the things that are changing around them, whether it's policy changes, environmental changes, all sorts of things. And that's a long-term process, and it's a process that involves many different people, stakeholders in government, stakeholders in the community, stakeholders in industry, and it's always a collective responsibility. But WSP is leading a large group, a large consortium. We're coordinating, but we are not alone in this endeavour. And when we set out to think about how to approach this unique opportunity, we were very conscious of the need to bring together a collection of people who are very much experts in urban development, urban change, design, architecture, infrastructure, environment, and to basically pull together a collective of key individuals. So on the WSP side, we are coordinating the assignments, and we're bringing a lot of expertise in economics and property, but also very much in transport and infrastructure. I have a colleague, Jason Langley, who's currently leading Plymouth's transport strategy. He's locally based, very embedded in the city with his team. We're also coordinating the whole process of engagement and consultation, which will be something that is fundamental to the project and which runs through the entirety of the project, creating the ability to have multiple conversations at all levels, from senior stakeholders right down to different parts of the community, so that we have an ongoing conversation with the city to inform the work that we do. But we were very conscious of the need to have other experts, so we reached out to Glenn, who leads the Howells design practice. Glenn is a very well-known and highly regarded architect. I'll ask him to speak in a few minutes, and he will probably touch upon some of the work that he's done in cities like Birmingham, strategic work to look at the centre of Birmingham, how that needs to change over time in response to many different types of things. We've also brought in Alex Ely, who's on the train in France at the moment, and particularly to lead on the city centre master plan. And Alex is an award-winning, Sterling Prize-winning architect who is very influential with central government and often called upon to lead various initiatives, government initiatives on the architecture and design front, particularly around housing and the future of housing in cities. But we also wanted to have experts who are very locally based, people who have spent their careers in and around Plymouth in this area and who know the city very well. And we wanted to bring together a kind of a global expertise with very much a local expertise. So we have people like Graham, for example, who's based in the city with LHC Design. We also have Gillespie Yuni, who are working with them. Many of you may know Jackie Gillespie from the work that she's done in places like Royal William Yard. So again, very, very familiar with just the fabric, the intimate fabric of this city. We have Lavinia Lonsdale as well, working with us on the project. And some other experts who, again, have maybe a broader expertise and maybe a more global expertise. We have Macaur, the Macaur practice, Tim Macaur, who also has some history in the city. And we've also got DNCO working with us, who you'll be familiar with through the branding work that was done. And they're also part of our consortium, because we wanted to make sure that the work that we do is aligned to and is a progression from, if you like, the existing brand and identity that has been created for Plymouth. I'm going to ask Glenn and Graham to speak a little bit in a few minutes, and maybe also Alex, if we can hear from him on the train. But just some observations from myself. 20 years ago, I did a lot of work in Plymouth. I led a team developing an economic strategy for Plymouth 20 years ago. So I used to spend a lot of time in the city. So it is great to be back. Some things are the same. Some things are reassuringly familiar as I walk the streets of Plymouth, and it's very nice to see those reassuringly familiar things, but some things are different. There was no box last time I was here. There was no barcode last time I was here. The university was not as big as it is now. The Arts College was not a university, in fact. So a lot of things have changed. There's clear progress. This is a city that has achieved a lot already, and the work that we're doing is using that existing progress as a stepping off point, if you like, to take that further and help it evolve. But we are in a different era. We are in an era where defence and security are much more important now than they were 20 years ago. And with that comes government interest, government funding, private funding, a very significant amount of investment going into defence and security, into Devonport. And that will be hugely consequential for the city's economy and for the city's workforce. That workforce will have to increase in order to serve the needs of the naval dockyard and the whole industrial supply chain and value chain that goes with that. And if the workforce has to increase, the population will also have to increase, and that population will be housed well. And part of that will be in the city centre. The new towns policy of the government is also important, because that's also an opportunity to realise a new model of new town which is part of the fabric of an existing city centre, a new kind of model. I grew up in a new town, so I know about new towns, but it was not a new town in the city. It wasn't like this one. But there's also, many other things which are making a difference here. The public realm is changing, and investment in the public realm. When I go around the world and I work in different cities, I think it's important that we must never underestimate the importance of good quality public realm in how a city experience is made available to a whole diversity and cross-section of people, and how a city presents itself to the world. That's my own personal reflections. I'm going to ask Glenn now, just to say a few words about how he sees our assignment and our objectives.
Thanks, Jim. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yep.
Okay. I'd just like to, first of all, start by saying it's a huge privilege to have the opportunity to work on the transformation of Plymouth at this point. And it's great to hear the leader, on behalf of the council, setting out so clearly the enthusiasm and commitment to making this transformation happen. It's not going to happen. We know that. We've been doing this for a long time. It's got to be a partnership between the public sector and the private sector. I'm also delighted to be involved with this project because I came to Plymouth to start my career in design in 1979, and I got on with the place so well that when I had the chance to leave, I didn't, and I stayed there for getting on for 10 years, working and continuing to study there. And so I got to know all of its sort of intricacies and heritage, and it was astonishing, the access to countryside. And so this is what makes it such a special project for the UK. I can't think of another city in the UK which has got the range of opportunities that Plymouth has in terms of natural assets. It's amazing waterfront, it's access to parkland, to moors, great rivers, but also it's got this amazing heritage and ingenuity and industry within it, which has propelled the city at different points over its career. I mean, I can remember watching the Falklands fleet being equipped on the Sound sailing out, and the whole city got around the urgency and the need to do all of this. And so I think the potential there is huge. And I do think, as we've heard, this delivering 10,000 new homes to deliver the opportunity that the city needs. It's not just 10,000 new homes. It's using amazing 10,000 brilliant new homes, but not just one type of home. As the leader said, when you last ventured out on an urban expansion, it was suburban. We're in a completely different period now. And I think the city centre, as the leader said, can be human in terms of human density, not overly dense, but the right density, and return the people to living in the city centre that will benefit not just those people having homes, but it will reboot the economy, it'll reboot the retail, it'll get jobs back in the city. And we've seen this, and we've worked on a number of different places where this has worked. Just a bit about our experience. So I'm so old, I've worked on most major cities in the UK. I'm based most of the time in Birmingham, and we've just completed a 40-year vision for the city there, which is about gently increasing the density, doubling the amount of green space, increasing healthy transport connections, and so it's not so car reliant. And I think the lessons that we've learned there, we also were fortunate to work on East London when the Olympics started in 2007. That's when they started to get ready. So we were part of the master planning team on that. And so we've got first-hand experience of seeing how these regeneration projects actually get delivered. And if you go to Stratford in East London now, compared to what it was like in 2006, it's hugely different. And then we're just starting to work in Brisbane, in Australia, where they're hoping to capture the investment for the Olympics. And again, use that as a catalyst to regenerate and transform the city. And that's why we're so excited to be working with you on the Plymouth project, because we think it's got all of those ingredients, but so many more than most UK cities. And this time is right for the city to turn the corner. In terms of the process that we'll be going through, we'll be looking to working with Alex and the rest of the team, looking at where these 10,000 new homes go. But they won't all be in the city centre core. We think there's opportunities around some of the slightly tired and underused areas around the city core, where there can still be jobs, there can still be employment, but we can also bring a range of different type of housing there. I'm also really interested in what type of housing is going to be right for the city. We need probably more, as the universities grow, there'll be a need for more student accommodation. But I also think retirement, later living, flexible working space, as well as great family homes. So we're not taking this this job lightly. We're really going to work hard to develop the brief to make sure that what you get is more Plymouth and not anywhere else. So we're trying to get the right mix and the investment for this city to maximise its potential in the next 25 years. Key to that at the core, of course, is health and well-being. I can't think of any city which has got great air quality, access to water, access to countryside. It's now using that to bring in that theme of health and well-being. So it also underpins how you move between jobs and workplaces. how you create green and healthy transport networks, as well as providing decent car parking as well. So and as Jim just said, this process, it's not new. It's been going on. You've got some great projects such as Royal William Yard, the recent investment at the Hoe, Sutton Harbour. But we see this project as being the opportunity for the whole city to turn the corner. And the starting point of that, of course, is starting with understanding the city. We are not, even though I've got some knowledge and the rest of the team have got knowledge, we're not kidding ourselves that we know it all at all. So the first part of the process is going to be listening to communities, businesses, the universities, cultural organisations, and all of you in the room, really, to make sure we've got a pretty clear idea of what the vision's about and what you want to achieve, but we want to just play it back to you before taking the project to the next stage. Once we've understood the city, the next stage is defining the vision. And it's got to be bold. As the leader said, you only get a chance to do this. You don't get this every generation to do. This is a once in 3 generations opportunity to get the city to transform itself and take advantage of all its opportunities. So the next job after that is going to be defining the vision, and then working with the rest of the team is delivering this roadmap towards 2050. So just a couple of closing thoughts, really. As I say, for me, this isn't another job. This is personal. And I think for many people on the team, they feel exactly the same. We want to see at the end of this process that you haven't got a brilliant report. You've got a set of tools and a direction of travel and a vision, which is deliverable and transforms the lives of people there, enhances lives, grows businesses, and transforms and puts Plymouth where it should be as the best coastal city, probably in Europe. So if we get this right, and I'm sure we will, we get a city centre full of life, we get a new generation of homes for everybody at all ages, and we get a healthier, more connected, brilliant ocean city. I hope my enthusiasm has come across in the few moments I've got, but we just think it's an amazing thing to be involved with, and we're really honoured to be appointed as part of the team.
Thank you very much. Glenn. Oh,
Thank you very much indeed for that, Glenn. I think not only am I going to clip that, but I'm going to bottle it as well. And if we can sell it, that will also be very handy. So who else is coming in our little gang here, Jim? Did you mention Graham?
yes, that's Graham to say a few words.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Cabinet. Nice to be here. Personally, Plymouth is more than an assignment. It's the place I call home and have lived in for over 40 years. I am really honoured to be able to be part of the team that's delivering on this opportunity to create a framework vision for this city, to drive it forward and make good on its ambition to be a great place to live, to thrive, and to bring our families up in. I bring particularly to the team a deep understanding of the context of the place, both working and living here for the length of time that I have, and then helping the team to communicate that vision to the stakeholders and the people in the city that I've known and got to know over the years that I've been working here. LHC Design particularly bring our kind of urban design skills and architecture skills, landscape architecture skills to the table, but most importantly, personally over 20 years of delivering some of the great projects that this city has brought forward in that time. Thinking of South Yard, Plymouth South Devon Freeport, National Marine Park, Horizon projects, and of course are still ongoing in those ventures. Helping this team navigate the city, understand its peculiarities and particularities at a granular level that will help inform that vision and ensure that it's deliverable. So as Glenn has already said, that it doesn't become a document on a shelf, it becomes a living, breathing thing that we can deliver on in the years to come and my children can be part of. I think just to close to say this feels like the gig that I've probably been waiting most of my life for. So arriving at this point is a real privilege to be able to be involved with, and we look forward to the work in the year ahead. Thank you.
That's great. Stakeholders, right? That's it. Not contractors, but stakeholders. That's really important. Sorry, Jim, back to you.
I don't know, Alex might be able to say a few words. Is that possible, Alex?
Indeed, I'd like to at least say hello. So thank you, Jim. Thank you, Cabinet. It's a real pleasure to join you, and apologies that I'm on a train. I'm actually taking the low carbon option to the Midland Property Conference, where I really hope next year we can platform a new vision for Plymouth. Midland is the sort of investor space for development and regional growth. So it'd be great to start talking about a presence there for next year. But nonetheless, anyway, in advance, we've got a lot of work to do. And I'm really excited by being able to kind of reimagine the city centre. Our focus will be on the city centre master plan. And I'm really minded that Plymouth has a wonderful kind of history. Most recently, Charles Darwin returning on his 5 years, coming back with his theory of evolution. And really, that's what we're on a journey now. It's the next evolution of the Plymouth city centre. How do we build on the good bits of Abercrombie, the post-war ambition, but also repair the poor bits? How do we create a sense of civic pride, overcome those problems and disconnection between the city centre and the surrounding neighbourhood, and how do we make it a desirable place to live? And that's really the journey I'm going to be going on with Jim, with Glenn and the team, and with you as the Cabinet and all the local residents to kind of make the city centre a really wonderful place to live. I think I'll probably stop there because my connection to hopefully Jim, Glenn and Graham can answer any further questions. Thank you.
Well, it's brilliant. I was talking before the meeting started about, the communications at Live Aid in 1985. And so I think we've done very well, Alex, to get you on this journey with us today. I don't think you're on Great Western or cross country there, are you? I'll probably get killed when I go home if I haven't said that. Okay, so anything before we get some questions to you from the Cabinet?
I think that's it from us. Thank you.
Okay, well, if you don't mind, if there are any questions, I wondered from Chris if you got anything.
Thank you, Leader. And inevitably, this amount of change causes people concern. It's very difficult for people to see an end product that is different from what they're used to and have been used to all of their lives. And so there's a process that we need to go through. And I just wondered whether you'd be able to expand a little on how you plan to engage with all of Plymouth's communities, not only those already living in and around the city centre, but those who use the city centre for shopping, for leisure, or for other purposes.
Yes, thank you very much. So at the current time, we are developing an engagement strategy, which will set out the mechanisms for engagement, and it will include a variety of things. I think, first of all, understanding the engagement that's already taken place in the city. I think there's been a lot of engagement on other types of initiatives and projects. There's an existing body of evidence, if you like, that we need to take into account and use as a starting point. And then the engagement process that we want to conduct will involve events, whether events in the city centre, events with communities, events linked to cultural organisations or cultural locations. But we also want to develop a series of ongoing, carefully constructed conversations, just being in the city and talking to stakeholders, talking to people who represent communities, using quite simple mechanisms, just being in the city centre in a location that people can come to, being located in certain communities to talk to people so that we can have a long-term engagement and series of conversations that span the entire process, not one-off things or big events which are just one shot at doing something. We want to continue a dialogue, very carefully considered, a kind of slow-moving dialogue almost as we go. And I think it's important at the outset, our work will create a new vision for the city centre, but we don't want to suddenly bring that vision for people to talk about. We want to find out what people think now about their experience of the city centre, what they like about it, what they don't like about it, what they would like to see improved, and just hear about people's experiences day to day in the city, whether they live here, whether they live close to the city centre, whether they're people who commute. There is existing information, but we want to build on that by having that. And then as we proceed and we're developing the framework, we're developing the master plan, then testing those as well. But the conversation begins now, really, I think, with all of those communities.
Great. When we're outside the room, could we not talk about stakeholders, but talk about local people?
Okay.
Because otherwise people think it's something not them rather than them. And can I encourage you to have a really good look at our recently published community engagement framework? Because it would be really useful, I think, if you were applying principles that we were applying. It sounds like you're planning to, but it'd be really good if you could cross-reference that, because it would make it a lot easier for members to see then that you were what you were doing and how you were doing it. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. Sally, have you got anything?
I was going to ask what attracted you to Plymouth, but I've heard an awful lot from you, but I don't know if you wanted to add anything else to that.
I can't. I'm sure Glenn and Graham will have more to say. I've worked all over the country, all over the United Kingdom, and in many other countries, from Africa to Asia, all over the place. Certainly in the UK context, there is no other city like Plymouth with the physical attributes that Plymouth has. It's a unique experience walking through the city centre, walking to Plymouth Hoe and walking around the seafront. And it's also a city which it's a maritime city in a way that expresses itself in ways that other maritime cities don't, I think. And it's partly the history, but it's also partly just being close to the sea. I think it's a unique city in many, many respects. And this is a unique opportunity for a unique city. It's a kind of a double whammy of uniqueness, that this is an opportunity to reimagine and reconfigure a city centre. I can't think of another project like this in the UK. There are similar projects in other places in Europe, other parts of the world, but not in the UK. So I think it's, as somebody who's spent decades in urban economic development, it's a very special opportunity, I think. I don't know, Glenn, if you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've said quite a bit of what I was going to say, but the unique opportunity and the reason I'm so drawn to this, to working on this Plymouth project, is because when I first came to the city, it was the plan was great. It was green, it was healthy, but it wasn't dense enough. And we went to see other European cities when I was a student there, and we went to Lyon and other cities, and they'd achieved a quality of life in the city centres where there were enough people in the city centre. So I think the really interesting and transformative step will be having the confidence to gently increase the density, not ripping up the original plans. There's some great things about the bones of the city which we can keep and work with. But I think what I'm looking forward to, and I hope I live long enough to see it, is where if any student or anybody gets the opportunity to be in Plymouth, they don't want to leave, that they retain all of the great talent, and it becomes a great European city, and people are drawn to stay there. And I think it's possible because you've got capacity in the city. We work in London a lot. There's not much capacity left in London. Plymouth has got so much capacity to achieve a lot with, and you can't say that for many cities. And its topography. Sorry, the other thing is, so all of that is great. You've got capacity to bring people back in and create world-class livable city, but also the way that the geography and the topography folds up towards the water, that you get views out over the Sound from an elevation of 30 meters. I mean, it's marvelous. You just don't get this in many cities. So you've got great ingredients to work with.
I suppose I have home advantage, don't I? But I'm not going to tell you anything that you probably don't already know about this city, which we're lucky enough to live in. apart from leaving it, gives you an opportunity to look back on it and see what really is special about the place. And it is a special place. And it's time for Plymouth to kind of be proud of what it has and kind of sit itself on the national stage appropriately. I'm really pleased that the city is looking at the City of Culture bit, and I think there's never been a time when we would have put Beryl Cook in the box. And that's a sign that Plymouth's relationship with itself and ourselves as Plymouthians means that it's the right time to have this vision, because we can have a really great conversation with the city about what it wants to be. And I think there's a confidence in the city now that means that that will be a greater conversation, perhaps any of those that have gone before. So that's what attracted me to this.
Thank you very much indeed. All right, with that. Who else would like to, well, what about you, Deputy Leader?
Well, as you mentioned, culture, I just want to say, I could sit here all afternoon and listen to you talking about Plymouth in the way that you are. It's palpable, your commitment and your pleasure at having the roles that you have, and it's so wonderful to hear. But talking about culture, and you mentioned City of Culture, I hope it's clear to you, this is a city that really takes culture very seriously, and I'm just interested in how culture will be embedded in the master plan, and how having a thriving cultural creative industries sector contributes to having a thriving city.
I'll start the answer, but I'm sure my colleagues will want to contribute. I think one of the key objectives for the city is to grow and create the workforce that Devonport Dockyard and its supply chain needs. And part of the offer to new residents, for example, will be a strong cultural environment, strong, vibrant cultural environment, as it will be to existing residents, and a cultural environment that provides for everyone, those who want high culture, those who want culture that's more about their everyday experience. And I think we've seen a lot of developments in the cultural fabric of the city already, which I think could evolve further. I think the City of Culture bit, this is an important moment, I think. At WSP, we've done a lot of work in the city of Bradford, which has many challenges, as many cities do in the UK. And we were working in that city when the city was awarded City of Culture status. And it has an amazing galvanizing effect on cities, particularly cities which are very diverse and need ways of bringing different types of people together. And the City of Culture process provided a vehicle for doing that. And you could certainly see in Bradford, it made people feel proud of their city, because suddenly they were revealing it to the nation in its multifarious forms and its uniqueness. And also they did very interesting things around public realm in Bradford, and you could see people physically coming together in a place to express their enthusiasm and to celebrate the City of Culture, the win, and everything that went forward. So culture as a series of assets and places and venues, but it's also culture as an experience and what it means to everyone in the city. Everyone needs to be able to have their own personal experience of culture and cultural identity. I think it's absolutely vital to the health and the future of the city. I don't know if Glenn and Graham have anything.
Yeah.
Graham.
Yeah, thank you. I'm lucky enough to be a trustee at one of the cultural institutions of the city in Cast in Stonehouse. And the culture of the city is quietly spoken, and it's time for us to talk more with a greater voice about that. British Arts 07 and 9, the fact that we're going for City of Culture, the artists that have been in this city, the theatre, and not forgetting TR2, which supports it both here and globally as well. So, the number of institutions, the work that's been done at the box, across the city, we have a lot to be proud of and a lot to build upon. And it's important that as we develop industry, that we become not just a mercantile city, but a mercantile city with culture. And visiting other cities around the country. It's really important that those two things maintain their relationship as siblings as we move forward.
Lovely. John?
Thank you. You've answered quite a lot of the things that I was going to ask about, and I was interested when you mentioned, Glenn, that Brisbane you've been working in, where the Olympics are in 2032. I thought a visit to look at what you've done there would be really handy. But equally, I had visions of the torch in my mind, because I think what we do in Plymouth, I think it's important. It's not just what we do, but how it's done has equal value. But there's an opportunity here for us to hold a torch to the rest of the country through your expertise, through the community engagement, to the ambition in the city and so on, from all sorts of people. Hold a torch to the rest of the city as an Olympic torch to show what can be done here, because Plymouth is often seen as a remote southwest city. So there's so much opportunity here. It's a peninsula city as well, you know, with a home and two rivers either side. Are there challenges there in terms of developing a city, particularly with transport links? Because it's not just with the city centre, it's how the city centre connects to its hinterland as well as the rest of the city. Have you been dealing with cities either in Britain or around the world that have actually had that challenge of being a kind of peninsula city for it to spread out?
That's a good question. So in thinking about these issues, things like transport, connectivity, peripherality, as part of the framework, we'll certainly be thinking about connectivity within the city and to the city. What's interesting with Plymouth is it's obviously there's domestic connectivity, but there's also international connectivity, which I think is, again, one of those interesting features of the city. When I think back to when I first worked here 20 years ago, I think the issue of peripherality was much stronger in people's minds. That it took a long time to get to Plymouth from wherever, mainly London. People get on ages, but that was in the pre-COVID era. It was in the pre-technology era, the pre-AI era, and I think the way that the world of work and our relationship with work operates, that has changed now because of technology, which I think creates opportunities for a city like Plymouth and for other peripheral cities which maybe weren't there before. And when people make choices about where they live relative to where they work, there's more fluidity in these kind of choices now. And there's a huge driver for being in employment in Plymouth because of everything that's happening with defence and security. So I think the equation is different, if you like, this time around than it was in the past, and the dynamics are different. And I think it's a whole range of things. It's about where work is, it's about where the home is, it's about where the schools are and how the schools are, it's about the cultural life, it's about access to many other things. And I think we can play around with these factors in different ways now, I think. And I think we see this playing out in other cities as well. But the quality of the natural and built environment in the city, I think, is fundamental to still bringing people here and making them stay. If colleagues have any?
Yeah, if I can just add to that, I think it's a good question, because Plymouth, it's quite easy if you're in Cornwall to bypass it and go to another city, Exeter or Bristol. But actually, I think part of this job is reaffirming the role of Plymouth as being the capital of the Southwest, and having the range of opportunities, indeed culture, but also employment, and creating. It's not. I'm not trying to create a brand as a sort of as a false thing or something which is synthetic, but I think creating a story for the growth of the city around attracting the right employers, the right research, and so it becomes a place of choice. And it's about increasing its magnetism, so more people need to come to Plymouth and want to come to Plymouth and will stay in Plymouth. So I think you can't just look at it as a housing project. The housing's important, but it needs all the other dimensions. I was there when they built the Theatre Royal, and even that would have had a huge impact on the city when it was built. And I think with the Capital of Culture bid, we are seeing cultural institutions not necessarily deciding to stay and grow in London anymore. And certainly the Arts Council are thinking about a national arrangement of arts and cultural facilities. So I think getting back to the question, it's a peninsula site, yes, but I think the biggest job we've all got is to change the perception, and so it is an attractor of people and businesses from within the region, but also nationally, and I think we can do that.
So can I just add another thought to that? I think one of the things that makes cities successful, irrespective of where they are geographically, is, to use a maritime theme, is anchors. And I think that Plymouth has anchors, not just related to ships, but it's got a big university which continues to grow. It's got the dockyard, it's got cultural assets, it's got a very large public sector and public sector entities, including healthcare, very important healthcare assets, for example. And I think if you have these anchors and you can create the connections between them, and you can provide the kind of the innovation capacity that comes out of linking these anchors together, you start to embed growth in a positive, sustainable way and make the place attractive. And I think Plymouth has, so it goes back to Glenn's point about Plymouth being the capital of the Southwest. Because of that historic role, the city does have those anchors. And if we can create a city centre environment, which is also of an excellent quality, it will reinforce the role that these anchor institutions, these anchor entities play in the city, and that will be reinforcing, I think, and it's part of the kind of system we want to try and get to evolve through the work that we're doing.
Mark, would you like a question?
Well, we've all got hundreds of questions, really, haven't we? And that's exactly right that we do have, because we're at the beginning of the process, of course, and it won't be the first time that you get to see these gentlemen, and they'll be doing a lot of work on our behalf. But I hope what you've heard today gives you a high degree of confidence that we have assembled a very experienced, passionate, that's come out clearly today, very knowledgeable group of individuals and organisations that can take this city forward into the next 3 generations, I think you referred to, Glenn. So there's a lot of work to do, and there's a long way to go yet. So yeah, there'll be hundreds more questions, but we will get the opportunity to ask those as we move forward.
Indeed. I mean, yeah, I know Chris's comment about stakeholders amongst the local community, but you know what I mean in you know, we have a lot of consultants come to us for various things, but I have to say to you, and you know, without wanting to kind of blow smoke or all that, you know, you're a team that knows us. You're also a team that cares about us, and that comes through. You know, there's no doubt about that. And you know, it's you get us, and you know what we're trying to do here though is, you know, I mean, it's very easy in Plymouth. Plymouth people are quite nostalgic for what they had before, but then they've also got this ability to completely eradicate what went before and have something new. I mean, it's a contradiction actually, which you've got to get to grips with. But having rebuilt the city once, it's kind of we're about to do it again. And what we don't want to do now is we don't want people to be, you know, nostalgic for a lost city. Actually, what we want them to be excited about the city that we're about to do, what we're about to make happen in there. And we can see glimpses of it already. You know, those of us that, you know, get about a bit in the course of our work as councillors see city centre regeneration all over the country, and we see good examples and bad examples. So we've got an idea. Perhaps we've got a better idea than most people in Plymouth at the moment about what you guys can do. And that's why we're excited, because we want some of that. We want a lot of it, actually. And, you know, you're absolutely right about, you know, what 21st century Plymouth is. It used to drive me potty, peninsularity, I called it, which it used to infect us. Oh, we're 3.5 hours from London on the train. But meanwhile, people are exporting 96% of what they produce all over the world here. I think I manage that. So why is that a problem? And, you know, so I'm relaxed about all of that stuff. What I'm really interested in now is the possibilities of the future. I'm excited about the potential to market our city, not just to people outside the city, but people inside the city as well, because that's a big job. But I think, I mean, I keep thinking, I keep thinking about my grandkids. I keep thinking about where they're going to live. And I don't want them to move away. I want them to stay in Plymouth. I want them to have the opportunities. I want them to have the place that they can call home and bring their kids up. That's what I want. And that's a motivation for a lot of us, I think, So we're going to be having a few more conversations with you over the next few months and years. I'm really excited about what you bring, but Stuart's here, and we got utter confidence in his abilities as well. I mean, we talk about people who care. Stuart is just the right person in the right place for us. So thank you, and we look forward to Stuart coming back, perhaps frequently as well, and updating us on how things are going. So I think. David, is there anything you want to say, or have we said enough today?
No, I think we're done. All I would say is when we interviewed the team, and there were some amazing groups of consultants, what you described as finding a team who understood us, had passion for us, and were authentic was at the centre of what we were seeking. And you've heard that today. So they're technically brilliant, but they're also that there's some weight on their shoulders as well from our ambition, our expectations, and I think that's a good place to be.
Okay, so well, I guess that's that. Well, there's nothing really for us to do now except to say thank you for what we're about to receive. We're already thankful, actually, but looking forward to working closely with you over not 3 generations. I don't think any of us are going to quite manage that, are we? But what we are looking forward to is setting a framework which is going to make this city a 21st century city and a successful city and a livable city and all of those things. So thanks for coming today, and thanks for doing what you're going to do. Thank you. I'm going to move on now, if that's all right.
Go ahead.
We have a number of exciting things happening to us today. And we're going to do I think we're about to do the live aid experience again. Yes, we are. Richard.
Yeah, right.
So, you're speaking to us live from Oceanology International, is that right?
Yeah, Oceanology International. It's a biennial every 2 years. And so we're making a big sort of showcase of the National Centre of Marine Autonomy here. I'm not quite live because it's too noisy. We're building the stand behind me, as you can see, which is a fantastic stand, right in the heart of this this event, which has 15,000 people come from 90 countries around the world. Anyone who's in autonomy is here. Anyone who's in oceanology is here. And we brought it the special flavour of defence with dual use. And I have to say that the team have done a fantastic job, along with our partners, yourselves, and the university, MOD, etc., to get this stand here. So we're excited.
It's really good to have you here, Richard. Well, have you there, and similarly, Ian. You're not outside a shed either, are you? You're in oceanology as well, yeah.
I am, but we'll be talking about these sheds in a bit.
Lovely.
So
Yeah, we want to hear about the sheds, don't we? Because I find, I mean, these folks in the cabinet room here looking at me like I've gone bonkers, but I'm really excited about sheds, more especially about what goes on inside the sheds. They are really exciting things as well. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So I just want to say a couple of words of introduction, if you don't mind, and then we'll let you get on with it. But it's really exciting having heard about MIPIN, which we don't go to because but the opportunity next year to talk about Plymouth abroad, that'd be something. But we're going to Reef in May up in Leeds, and you're in oceanology. I mean, I'm sure that it's great that we're starting to have Plymouth's presence in these places, which other cities have done unapologetically for years and perhaps stolen a march on us. It is very difficult sometimes when people see councils go into these things, people immediately say jolly. Well, they are jolly because what happens at them is that you get to meet people that won't come to Plymouth, but Plymouth comes to them, and therefore you can take the story and take the opportunities and show them exactly what we've got going for us down here. So they're really important. And I mean, I spoke to you last year when I went to Reef. I did 22 meetings in Reef last year with developers. And, you know, you just couldn't organise that for everybody to come down here and talk. So these things are important. Anyway, the Freeport is gathering real momentum. And the pace of progress is pretty exciting, fellas, isn't it? So we are now the UK's only defence industrial strategy zone and a core partner within Team Plymouth. And that Freeport is rapidly becoming a magnet for a major defence sector interest. We always knew that would happen, didn't we? But it's great that it is. So yeah, the talk is over and the action is happening. Babcock has confirmed its intention to establish both an integrated logistics hub and an advanced manufacturing facility inside the Freeport. That signals a major step forward in strengthening our regional defence and manufacturing capabilities. Plymouth's global appeal continues to grow. Last year, we had significant foreign direct investment. I mean, it's been a long time since I'm able to say those words in one sentence. Well, when Helsing came to Langage for its first UK resilience factory, I mean, it's going to produce cutting-edge marine autonomous systems powered by advanced AI to monitor subsea threats across the world. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday about cables and snipping cables and how important it is that this sort of work is going on, and it's so right that we're part of it, a major part of it. So the council has been front and centre in ensuring the property pipeline is ready to meet the rising demand that we've now got. The final phase of Ocean's Gate will be completed within the next 12 to 18 months. That's going to deliver 14,000 square feet of high quality near waterside manufacturing and office space. Meanwhile, at Langage, the council's direct investment has already delivered nearly 50,000 square feet of premium employment space. And that's igniting private sector interest across the wider energy park as well. There is a lot happening and a lot more to come. So, to share the latest updates, I'm delighted to hand over to you two, Richard May and Ian Cooper from the Freeport team. As we say, live from Oceanology International. Over to you two.
Thanks so much, Tudor. Ian's got a handful of slides she's going to put up, but we're not going to spend more than sort of 5-10 minutes just to give you some highlights and maybe answer some of your questions at the end. But I think, you know, we'll start off with Oceanology. As you can see, we've created this 60 square meter stand behind us, and we've managed to do this with sponsorship from 26 organizations. And a lot of these organizations are the ones that are looking to invest in Plymouth. They hail from the US, they hail from Canada, Germany, and other countries around the world. They are significant players within marine autonomy and or autonomy proper, and want to get into marine autonomy. So Plymouth and the National Centre of Marine Autonomy is now, you know, leading the way, trailblazing the sovereign capability for marine autonomy, along with the key partners that we have in place. And so to collect this number of sponsors, and the stand is effectively paid mostly by they, that's a fantastic achievement. And it gives you a sense of the bubble that is forming. It also, interestingly, means that when we have presence at places like UK Reef, when we're talking to developers, they're much more prepared now to lean in and actually develop out the development land we have in the Freeport, because they can see the obvious demand that has been created by the efforts of Team Plymouth and everything that we're trying to do around the defence autonomy and maritime sector. So fantastic, we've got some of these, and watch out for 2 or 3 of these coming forward and taking leases at Beaumont Way and in Oceans Gate and in the builds that we do thereafter. They've all expressing interest. It's just a matter of timing and getting some of the aspects together. But what I love about this is it's not just the industry, although industry is well formed here. I'm not going to cite any names just because it will take too long. But we've got research and we've got catapults, and they're all leaning in to what we're doing here. You've got the offshore renewable energy catapult. Not on the list, but they've come in the last minute. We've got the Connected Places catapult coming along to this, and the National Composite Centre, and all these others are rushing to us now to want to become part of what we're doing here. Next slide then, please, Ian. Because we went early, we started bringing this together last August, and it takes time to plan these really properly. We're not just turning up and just sort of doing a show and tell. We are owning the space. We talked to the Oceanology executive, even the chair of Oceanology, who's a good friend of PML and MBA in Plymouth, and we said we want to own effectively the uncrewed vessel theme of the event. And so we put together all the panels that effectively will talk to that subject during the 3 days. And here's a sample of some of the panels that we're going to do. Moderated by the National Shipping Office, moderated by MOD, by PML and ORIC, etc. And that's a significant turnout. We've got live demos going on in water alongside, which are going to be piped back to the stand. And we've also got some of our sort of international partners like Canada, Italy and others who were going to join them on their stands as well. So some international partnerships taking place as well. We have reached all of the delegates. We were able to get the delegate list, and we've told them about what we're doing. And we've shared with them a brochure which we put together, which is an 80-page colour brochure, which is beautiful. It sets about Invest in Plymouth. It sets about everything that we're trying to do as a capability. And already we've had over 20,000 views of that brochure online. So this is significant, trying to get Plymouth on, well, getting Plymouth on the map. And there's going to be a lot of follow-on during the days and thereafter. And the teams of Team Plymouth, the Freeport, all working this thing through collectively. And we're launching effectively the National Centre of Marine Autonomy tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Luke Pollard's provided a video. Rebecca Smith will be also there, and Tracy's going to be there to help us launch the Marine on an international footing. And so we're going to have some of those international partners there, along with many others. And then throughout the 3 days, continuous work. We're going to have our landowners there and their developers to have conversations about the opportunities of leasing properties that are currently built, and also getting involved in the build out of the subsequent plots, which Ian's going to talk to in a moment. But that's in Oceanology, and we're really going large, and it's already got a lot of momentum. So we're featured throughout, and the team have done a great job. So Ian, over to you.
Thanks, Richard. So the Freeport brings to the party land and property across our geographies, so across our tax sites. And that's leading the charge is the council-led development. So we've got the Oceans Gate final phase. So as the leader said just a moment ago, 14.5 square feet of prime near waterside office and manufacturing space. We'll be looking to promote those opportunities that will be offered over the next 12 to 18 months as these units come forward, generating excitement with the aim being to secure pre-lets on all 8 units. And we're confident we can do that given the prime location near to South Yard, near to the wider Devonport Naval Base. We're already receiving numerous inquiries about when these units are going to be ready, so we're confident that we can get them pre-let in short order. Already complete, as was mentioned in the intro, is Beaumont Way. So huge amount of effort from both James Watt in Land and Property and Rob McGuffey, another PCC colleague who led this development with exemplary delivery ahead of time, well within budget, and we already have one of the units let to a defence prime. So the largest unit is now gone, and an announcement will be made in due course. And we're now actively dealing with numerous inquiries in relation to the remaining 3 units, and we believe we'll be able to make some positive announcements in very short order on those as well. But really, that's kind of used a bit of Freeport money, a bit of the seed capital money from the Freeport, and some commitment, huge commitment from the council in terms of direct development, which not only happens within the Freeport, but there's numerous examples of council-led direct development within the Economic Development Department to generate the property supply, and to catalyse interest from the private sector in what Plymouth has to offer in terms of development opportunity. And what we've been able to do over the last 12 to 18 months is work across various strands to broker a development joint venture, which is very near to signature, between the landowner of Langage Energy Park and an internationally renowned developer that wants to carve out a presence in the southwest beyond Bristol. And they see the burgeoning defence demand in the Plymouth area, and they essentially want to create Langage Energy Park, rebadge it, remarket it as the premier employment site in the southwest that can offer substantial sized developments. This is just indicative in terms of demonstrating this master plan on the screen, the kind of potential of the site. So we've got a range of unit sizes from about the 20,000 square feet all the way up to a near 400,000 square feet in plot 7, just south of the power station at Langage. That's unheard of anywhere else this side of Bristol. Plymouth is the place to invest with defence-led growth and the wider place-making agenda that we've already heard from in the segment prior. And we're driving and banging the drum at Oceanology to land further investment. So more housings, more other key defence primes, both indigenous and foreign direct investment that are new players to broaden an already exciting ecosystem and expand that into an international landscape.
And Tudor, back to your point about UK Reef, we met the US developer that's making this joint venture with Level at UK Reef 3 years ago. It takes the time it takes, and you've got to convince them of the demand, but they're here now, and that's a very significant breakthrough for us.
It's lovely. Fantastic, both of you. Any questions at all? It's thrilling, isn't it? Are you not thrilled by that, Mark?
That was genuinely thrilling, because as you know, I've been out this morning trying to tell this similar story with respect to other city councils' direct development, and Ian, your contribution was invaluable to that. Thank you very much. And I'm just working with the press journalists at the moment to clip some of your words, but is it almost a question for James, really? Do we have a transcript of some of this or not that we can use, please? Because Ian's contribution, not disputing yours, Richard, which is fantastic, I'm sure, but Ian, interested in that direct development stuff and explaining to people the actual benefit to our city by having that.
Thank you, Councillor Lowry. We'll be able to get you the transcript for that.
It is important because, you know, there's a bit of noise about at the moment about why the council does invest. You've just explained why we invest. You know, it's simple, really. It's called jobs and prosperity, and you know, that's why we do it. But the most important thing about it is, and you've said, is availability of units and stuff. So, you know, more of this, please, and that's why we're kind of pursuing that agenda through Team Plymouth as well. We need more industrial space for the opportunities that are coming our way. But that's fantastic. I mean, obviously, we're kind of excited because, we're hoping after LGR that Langage will be in Plymouth's bailiwick. That'd be nice. Although at the moment it'll be a tax-free site, won't it? But not for nothing's forever. But we look forward to you letting us know how it went in oceanology in.
Oceanology, yeah.
Yeah, was that? Yeah. It's easy for you to say because you probably have more practice than I have saying it. But look forward to your tales of daring do from that stand. Could you send us some pictures when it's finished being built, please? Because it sounds quite an impressive array of sponsors. And will their names be on it as well as sponsors?
Yes, so you can't see it, but there's one of the Helsing's submersives there, and you've got Team Plymouth, you've got obviously Plymouth City Council, and on the other side of that there's a picture of the Hoe, etc. So there's plenty of Plymouth centric, and there's various bullet points and logos all out.
Sounds terrific. Okay, anything else? Anybody? David, do you want to say anything, please?
Yeah, just if I could. So we do a lot in Plymouth, and I think sometimes we don't always just take a moment to reflect on what we've done. So the Freeport, just to remind us, we and Richard led the work when he was working in the ED team, and actually I think then poached Ian from the box, which I'm not bitter about at all. But we did that bid during COVID. We were announced in 2021 as one of 8 in the UK against all odds. No one thought for a second that Plymouth should be a free port. And we were the only free port different to all the others, a bit like the conversation we just had, because we weren't offering effectively a tax-led extension. We were offering homegrown jobs and building on our kind of natural strengths, which is what you're hearing about today. The outline business case was only approved in 2022, and we became a free port on the 7th of December, formally in 2022. And yet here we are now talking about it as though it's been here in our ecosystem forever. But actually, it just shows, when we come together as a city, we can do these really, really, really big national things and do them well. Here we are, as Richard said, sort of presenting ourselves as a city, and who can imagine the city without a free port? But actually, it wasn't that very long ago, when we were having to do 25 property deals in 3 weeks and all that sort of stuff. But this is now kind of, and I say business as usual as a huge compliment, because it's actually just what we do, and a huge tribute, to Richard for leading that process. And we've had our ups and downs on it. It's not been an easy process, but actually, what an amazing sort of presentation, and just shows how trusted we are at the centre of government.
Looking forward to the next board meeting, Richard, and sort of giving tales from where is it that you are actually at?
It's Excel London, so it's
Excel.
fantastic, Excel London, and they've just almost doubled it in size. So this is significant.
Yeah, no, it's going to be terrific. Okay, we look forward to seeing you again soon. And thank you both very much for today's update. And enjoy yourself, but work hard as well as playing hard, won't you?
We won't stop. We're going
No.
all out.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Okay. Is that okay? Thank you all very much indeed for that. I'm now going to hand over, if she wouldn't mind, to Jemima to chair the meeting for the next few minutes, as we ask Gary Wallbridge to come to the stage, and Sally Hayden to introduce this next item, which is the Safer Plymouth Modern Slavery Toolkit.
Over to you. Are you introducing it, Sally?
Yeah, I think if you wouldn't mind,
Yep.
Deputy Leader, we're just waiting for the officers to come in. Okay, they're just being
That's
called.
fine.
Gary's here as well.
Okay, welcome. So Are you introducing this item, Councillor Hayden? Yeah, over to you.
And thank you, Cabinet. Today I'm introducing the Safer Plymouth Modern Slavery and Human Trafficking Toolkit. This toolkit is important because it helps all of us across the council and our partners to understand the modern slavery looks like and how to spot the signs and what to do if we're worried about someone. Modern slavery can affect anyone. It includes labour, sexual and criminal exploitation, as well as situations where people are being controlled or taken advantage of. We know it happens in every part of the country, including here in Plymouth. That's why this toolkit matters. We have taken a public health and a community focused approach. This means we are not just reacting to cases when they happen. We are working to prevent it happening, supporting victims early and making sure our communities know how to report concerns. The toolkit gives clear and simple guidance from frontline workers and partners. It explains the legal duty under the Modern Slavery Act and the national referral of policy and what first responders need to do. It also includes local information, so the advice is relevant to Plymouth and the risks we face here. Chair, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to hand over to Matt, our modern slavery lead, who has led on creating this toolkit. Matt will talk you through what is new and how it will be used, and how we will support our partners to put it into practice. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden. Is it your first time at Cabinet?
It is.
Oh, well, welcome. And hand over to you, Matt. Thank you.
Okay, so my name's Matt Lawrence. I've been here in the council for about 6 to 9 months now. And one of the jobs that I was asked to do when I came here was to refresh this toolkit. The toolkit existed. It needed refreshing because we moved into new areas of business, new types of exploitation, new types of vulnerability. So we, as a group, went back to basics with it, and pretty much that's the approach, is bringing everything back to basics, looking at how we can do the basics really well collectively, reintroducing an anti-slavery partnership into the city, looking at what is going to be called the SERAC, which is the Slavery and Exploitation Risk Assessment Conference, so as that collectively the partner agencies, whether that be statutory or non-statutory, whether that be charities, volunteer sectors, different organisations who have come to the table in their droves. We have about 40 different agencies now engaged in the anti-slavery partnership on a quarterly basis, can actually look at how they internally can make sure that their staff know what to look for and what to do when they see it, and also that that the people that they're working with can bring their concerns to the table. It hasn't changed hugely, but it has been brought up to date, has been refreshed with all of the information that needs to be in it. It includes contact details from the majority of those agencies and departments. And what I will say is it's a living document. We can't sit here and say, this is it, it's complete. We can't say that that's it, draw a line under it and move on and we'll look at the next piece of business. It's something that needs to exist as a living document and needs to be looked at so as that as new information and new vulnerability and new exploitation is identified, we can tweak the system, tweak the document and adjust it accordingly.
Thank you. Tracy, is there anything you wanted to add? No? Okay. Councillor Pemberley.
Thank you, Deputy Leader, and thank you, Matt, and everyone else who's been involved in doing this piece of work. It's a number of years since I first brought stuff on tackling modern day slavery to council and here, and it's really good to see things now being, not only having been produced and being used, but being updated as well, because times change and knowledge changes. And so I'd really like to thank you for all the work you've done on that. This is actually a really key part of this year's action plan. So it's good to see that here and I welcome it. I know I've already been in touch with Christina to say this having been done, which is much more public facing, We need to think a bit more about how we get people in supply chains to understand this in the city. So we already do work with our own procurement and commissioning, but it's what we can learn from that in terms of lessons that we can sort of add into this as further chapters to encourage the city's supply chains to watch out for those signs of modern slavery and exploitation, because they won't have the same complex procurement and commissioning processes that we and our key strategic partners in the city have. And I've also said that that made me think more about how we did more with the public, about making sure the public understand those low-level public-facing businesses where slavery and exploitation might well be rife, so that we get more awareness of those as well. So I think this is really, really important, because it gives us the basis to move on to those next pieces and have actually a really fantastic suite of resources that aren't only good for us and our partners in Safer Plymouth, but also for business sector in the city and for individuals as well, so that together we can make sure that we tackle the real scourge that modern slavery and exploitation is. So thanks a lot. I really welcome this.
Thank you. Councillor Hayden, is there anything you'd like to sum up
No,
with?
I just would like to echo what Councillor Pemberthy has said. Great thanks to this work. A lot of hard work's gone into it, and really appreciate the work that you have done. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm quite struck by the kind of strap line, you know, slavery is closer than you think. It can seem like a kind of esoteric kind of concept, but actually when you read this, you realise it's, you know, it is in Plymouth, and we have to have very clear ways of tackling it. So thanks very much. Thanks very much for your work. I think the recommendation is for us to note the refresh of the Safer Plymouth Modern Slavery Toolkit. So we note that, and thank you very much for attending. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to have another swap of personnel, I think, as we move on to item 9, which is Pride in Place. So we're going to wait, I think, for Amanda to join us, and Glenn.
Just outside.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, the leader is back. I'm going to give him back his file. We're at item 9, leader, and we're just waiting for Amanda Ratsu to come in.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, this next item was quite exciting, really, because we had a big discussion earlier on about Pride in Plymouth, and in Pride in Plymouth City Centre, but Pride in the city as a whole. And now we're going to talk about Pride in Place, which is the Labour government's kind offer of some money for 2 of our communities, Devonport and St Budo, with bits of ham. We've got Amanda Ratzi is here, who, as well as her day job as Service Director for Team Plymouth, is also happily taking the reins of our bit of this. So we're going to hear now from Amanda and Glenn too, of if he so desires, to talk us through what we've got to do. We've got some really important work to do as a council, but I think it's important to say that it's the view of the government that this is much about partnership working as it is about control, right? And our job is not to be in the lead, but to be in the gang. And that's what we're going to hear about now. So Amanda, over to you, please.
Thank you, Tudor. So Pride in Place was announced, it was announced last year. It's up to 20 million in 2 areas, so a total of 40 million for Plymouth, and the 2 areas are St Budo and Devonport. The money is over 10 years, but it's not a flat profile. So we've got 150,000 in this year coming up, 26, 27. And in that time, we've got to recruit a board, we've got to write a plan, and then we've got to set out how we're going to support the board to spend the money. Now, in terms of the board needs to be community-led. It needs to represent the communities that it is based in. And it needs to have a sort of a minimum criteria in terms of who's on that board. People who live and work in those communities need to sit on the board. They've asked that Plymouth City Council acts as the accountable body. So our function is to act as the safe pair of hands on behalf of government to look after the money and ensure that there is good governance. So as Tudor said, it's a partnership. It's a partnership that is got multifaceted. There's the bit in terms of us being the safe pair of hands in terms of looking after the money, but there's the other part of it, which is making sure that it represents the local community, that we make sure that there's good governance. And maybe I'm being a little bit flippant, but actually making sure that the money is spent well and advising the board. And that involves things like providing an evidence base, helping them make decisions and putting together the plan. So I said that it's up to 20 million each year. It's not a flat profile. So there's 150,000 towards putting together the plan and getting the sort of governance right that's happening in 26, 27. And then 27, 28, the money starts to flow in terms of the delivery. And there's 390,000 that needs to be spent next year. I'm already thinking that I'm in the following financial year, but I'm a little bit confused there. And then it ramps up to about 1.2 million, and then it's about 2 million a year from there. And there's some quite interesting language that government have used. It's about making sure that it's up to 20 million. So they're probably going to give the money to the areas that spend well, that show that they can spend, because if you don't spend and you don't have a good quality and good track record of delivery, you probably won't get the money longer term. So there is something about how we work in partnership with the local community, how we work together with the MPs, how we work together with the local councillors that are on the board, and we help them shape a good programme of delivery. It's not all revenue funding either. It's 63% capital, and it's much harder to spend capital money than it is to spend revenue money. So actually really thinking, if you think in sort of 2 to 3 years' time, you're looking at spending 2.15 million in both areas. You've got to start planning that fairly early on, particularly if it's being community-led. So there's some real challenges, but some amazing opportunities with this funding. And this paper really just sets out how we act as that partner with the local communities and ensure that we have got the right systems and processes to help them spend the money well, but also draw down as much as we possibly can for the city and add as much value as possible. So Tudor, I mean, it sets out all the different requirements in the paper. I don't know whether or not you just wanted to pick up on any of those elements and sort of unpick those with a little bit more detail as we just mentioned earlier.
Thank you very much indeed. I mean, I was a bit curious when I read the paper to have delegated to you responsibility for MOU signing, because normally, you know, I do that.
Yeah.
And I have a lovely photo and I smile and la 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 la. So, you know, I don't know why I'm not doing that. So I was hoping I could change that today so that I'll do that bit as I usually do. Because once the council has agreed that it be signed, then I can sign it. But everything else that's delegated to you, which is more like hard work, I'd quite like you to do.
Well, that seems like a very good plan.
But if we could find the formal words, Jake, that sort of allows me to sign the MOU, because that's what normally happens with MOUs, that'd be great. I'm sure you can do that. And but everything else, I know they were worried that it might be in Purda, so therefore, you know, we couldn't do it. Well, actually, it won't be in Purda when we do this. It'll be a few months away yet, probably in the summer.
The MOU we have to produce, I would imagine we would do the memorandum of understanding with the two boards when they're established at the point where we've got a sort of delivery plan, because that's what would make sense, and that's not happening until the autumn. So that makes sense.
So in order to spare our blushes on the Purda front, we don't need to worry about that. And it's also to spare Amanda's blushes on the publicity front as well. But we will make, we will agree this with that slight tweak. Welcome, Jake, by the way. So we'll get that sorted out. I mean, it's going to be complicated because giving money away is never easy with the government, is it? There's usually a degree of back and forth, but you've got a timetable anyway.
We've got a timetable, and we're gonna make sure that we draw down all the money, and any money that's underspent in other areas, we'll have a plan ready to come forward. But you've got to start thinking about that with plenty of time and understand the profiling. So I hope that makes sense in terms of what's written, in terms of what the funding is for. It's there to add value. It's there to make a difference to the communities that need it, and the other important thing is it has to be led by the local communities. It's genuinely a community partnership.
Glenn, is there anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Leader. I think the only thing I would add is if you look on page 3 of the report, where it talks about the menu of eligible interventions, that gives you a sense of the type of interventions that will be coming forward. And if you look at things like improving local facilities and spaces, supporting health well-being, some of those things will be things that potentially be a decision for the board, but could be delivered by the City Council. So part of the thinking in terms of setting this up, how we're setting it up, is that we have to do two things. One is be an accountable body, as Amanda has set out, and do that in the best way possible. But also, in other parts of the organisation, we might be a delivery body, and that's why we've set it out with the accountable body sitting under Amanda. So you'll see us probably engage with this programme in a number of places across the council.
It's great. I mean, I think what this also invites the council to do is to be thinking ahead. In terms of delivery in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years' time. So things like, can we get some playgrounds done? That's important. And who's going to pay for that? Where is that money going to come from? I mean, I know people are sort of anxious here about substitution, but what I'm more anxious about is making sure that this money can actually make more money go further, and we can do more with this. But it has to be embedded in the community. We've been here before, way back with a single regeneration budget where, the council would install some railings and say, hey, look, we've regenerated your area. I mean, that kind of approach is no longer adequate, and it probably wasn't adequate then, but that's what we used to do. And then the New Deal for Communities, which of course we had in Devonport before in 2001 onwards. And it was really hard to spend a lot of money quickly. It really is. Everybody thinks, whoa. But once you actually get into it, and some of these sums of money, the capacity building that we have to do and the diligence that we have to do and all those things. So it's going to be really important that the council gets its act together in both St Judo and Devonport in terms of what it needs to be done there. So I want to throw words out like shopfront regeneration and stuff like that. We've done that before, and it's worked very successfully. If you look at what the New Deal communities did around that whole area there, around the bottom of Kerr Street, for example, magnificent work. And so we've got some track record in this where we can work with the community really quite smoothly, I think. And in St Buda, where we perhaps, again, we've been doing work, you've been doing work, Sally, alongside Clarion and others in terms of the regeneration of Dumbarton, for example. Again, you've got a bit of we've got a bit of experience in these areas of working with the communities. We know the communities and everything else and can work with them. I mean, I want to congratulate Fred and Luke in wrestling this money from the cold dead hands of the government. It's great. And, you know, having 40 million quid, you know, what I call clean money, is so rare. And it's a brilliant opportunity. And what we want to do now is absolutely maximise the bang for the buck. That's our pledge to the community. And this will be a do with, not a do to project, right? In both of those areas, that's a promise from the council for sure. Okay. Anything else before I put the recommendations to you? You all okay? You can see from the look on the Cabinet's face that they are absolutely excited by process. There is nothing they like more than a bit of process, let me tell you. But what will happen is over the coming months and years ahead, you'll be coming back to the Cabinet and updating us, perhaps even asking some money for stuff. And, you know, we'll be happy to have you back and talk to us about those things at that time. But thank you for doing what you're doing so far, and having to work with two MPs simultaneously. It's like riding two horses, isn't it, at once? So again, I can think of nobody better to do it than you. Thank you, Amanda.
You make me sound like a circus performer. Thank you,
Cheers.
Tudor.
Thank you. So the recommendations slightly amended on one of them, on I think it's 6. Is to put them to you, all 10 of them. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Right, that's great. We'll go on to item 11 now. I'm going to ask John Stevens. We've got to bring in Mike Arthurton to the table as well, haven't we, to do this? It's, did I say item 11? It's item 10, isn't it? Item 10. Parking services, annual review and proposed updates. Yeah. And hi, Mike. Oh, hello. You're not on my list, but hello, Andy. That's great. No, it's great. Good to have you here. And Glenn, of course, is here too. So before we get into the meat of the report, I'm going to ask John Stevens to introduce. John, please.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Leader. And I welcome Mike as well, who is the Group Manager of Parking, Marine and Garages in the city, and Andy, who is the Interim Service Director for Street Services. I'm pleased to introduce the Parking Services and Annual Review and proposed updates for 26-27. This report represents a coherent set of proposals designed to continue improving our parking services while supporting the Council through significant financial pressures. Parking income remains essential for delivering key services, and these proposals seek to balance service quality, fairness and financial sustainability. The paper sets out what we are proposing, why the changes are necessary, and how we intend to implement them. Following feedback from members of the public, I'm withdrawing from this paper the proposal 5.9 to introduce escalating charges for residential parking permits as outlined in 2.35, and that will obviously influence the recommendation process at the end of this session. Over the past year, we have made continuous progress in our commitment to modernise and improve services. Since 2023, we have delivered over 400 extra wide bays, expanded EV charging, invested £180,000 in payment system upgrades, extended parking durations for shoppers and strengthened safety measures, including new CCTV and school neighbourhood enforcement initiatives. These improvements highlight our commitment to efficient, customer-focused and financially responsible services. As well as delivering what would be perceived as typical parking services, parking officers also work closely with our public transport providers, for example, being members on the Enhanced Bus Partnership Board, supporting and promoting the importance of public transport by enforcing bus lane and bus bay misuse by unauthorised vehicles, often with on-board parking enforcement staff on the buses. We also partner with Plymouth Argyle Football Club by carrying out enforcement on site and in the neighbourhood on match days and events. We also endorse their efforts to promote active and sustainable travel to and from the grounds on these days. Benchmarking against 26 other councils shows that Plymouth's on-street and off-street fees remain significantly lower than most other cities. While we understand parking is a very emotive subject and no one openly welcomes increases in costs, this comparison demonstrates a clear gap and a clear opportunity to align more closely with national norms while protecting our essential services. So the proposals for 26-27 respond to rising service costs, seek to bring fees more in line with other councils, and ensure consistency across the system. Key measures include revising on-street charges with a proposed hourly rate of £2.80 and promoting the use of remaining paid time at other locations. And I'm sure Mike will develop that rationale there. Updating off-street charges, ensuring good value for longer stays and applying charges consistently to all motor vehicles. Introducing modest charges at coastal car parks after the first free hour, maintaining accessibility while supporting service costs. Revising blue badge arrangements at the Hoe Promenade to ensure fairness and consistency with other off-street sites, while maintaining reasonable adjustments for disabled users. And expanding payment choice and moving towards removing cash payments once system upgrades allow, improving customer experience and reducing carbon impacts from cash collections. And we're also updating permit fees, as you can see in the paper. Following the withdrawal of recommendation 5.9, collectively these measures are projected to generate a net benefit of £1,330,000 in 26-27, helping fund essential highways and transport services. So in terms of next steps, the paper asks members to approve applying parking charges to all motor vehicles in council car parks, approve withdrawal of cash payments once system upgrades are complete, implement increased on-street, off-street and permit charges following the statutory 21-day notice of variation, and support statutory consultation on changes to coastal car parks and on blue badge charging proposals. In summary, these recommendations promote fairness, consistency and financial sustainability, enabling us to continue improving services, including enforcement of permit parking areas, and to improve safety and clamping down on inconsiderate parking around schools while supporting the needs of the city. I'd now like to hand over to Mike to develop this further.
Thank you, Chair. The only thing I was going to add that Councillor Stevens touched on there was about the use of remaining time, which is something I wanted just to sort of bang the drum on more, where we understand nobody likes to pay more for anything. What we are doing, which is unique here, is that where you park in Plymouth, where you have time remaining on your ticket, you can use that time elsewhere. So if you park on the street and you want to go shopping, for example, and the time left, you then want to go and park on the Hoe and walk around. And it's just something that, whilst we inevitably having to look at increasing fees here, what we are actually doing is the overall experience. Actually, you could conduct your whole day's activities on one ticket.
And that's across the city or within a particular zone?
That's across the city.
Yeah. And one thing we want to do is promote that more, because whilst it's the service is there, promoting that is something that would be really important to add value to people's parking experience, particularly when people need to go from there to there and there.
You could drive to the Barbican, and then you could go to the Hoe, and then you could go to the city.
Anything else you want to develop on that, or any questions from members? Sorry, doing your job.
Oh yeah, I know you're doing my job and you're doing it very well, John. I'm not at all worried. Councillor Aspinall.
Thank you, Leader. I was on the scrutiny that looked at accessibility permits for disabled drivers who wanted to park in our car park. Now, the cabinet member at the time was Councillor Ricketts, and he guaranteed that it would be bringing £250,000 per year. Now, what I would like to know, and you might not have the answer for me this afternoon, I do appreciate that, is actually how many people are taking up those accessibility permits, because even 60 quid is a fair bit, unless you're in town very, very frequently. And obviously the extra now would be even more. So I would really like to know that.
Thank you, Councillor. Just say you are correct. I don't have that figure on me, but certainly I'll provide a written answer to that. We certainly know how many of those are in circulation, how many customers we have.
Thank you very much indeed, Mary. Kate.
Thank you. I think it's right that we consider how in the future we address the issue of increasing car parking, number of cars on our streets. Many of us in the Cabinet represent inner city wards that have clear and obvious parking issues that are not going to be resolved by more cars on the street. In fact, the opposite is true. There is simply not enough space for all of the cars that we have in the city. Like, that much is clear. And so thinking about how we reduce car use in the city and incentivise people to use public transport and improve public transport and make it more affordable for people, I think is the right thing to do. Having said that, many of the people who live in areas with high numbers of permit schemes have no choice but to pay for permits. They have cars, they have to access education, work, leisure, so they have no choice. And particularly at a time where money is tight for everyone, I think it is right that we've heard people's concerns. And I think John should be very pleased that we're able to remove that escalation and put a little bit more money back in people's pockets. One of the things around parking permits is enforcement, clearly. And I, for one, and I'm sure many of my colleagues would agree, would like to see more enforcement as part of parking permit schemes. So I think for members of the public, it would be interesting for them to understand what the cost of a permit covers and what residents can expect from their money, and why increasing the cost of the permit is necessary so that it washes its own face.
Thank you, Councillor. Again, I totally understand the question, and I think we'll pull some information together again to share in relation to what is included. When we charge for a permit, what we're doing is we're covering the cost of administering and managing that permit and scheme, and we'll set out and provide some transparency around what that includes.
Yeah, that'd be good to get that out sooner rather than later, Councillor Stevens, if I could suggest.
And just to, it's not just the cost of processing, responding to a form online or whatever like that. It's actually the enforcement of it, and that's what residents want to see. What are they getting for their money once they've passed that payment into the council? How is having a permit and paying for it making a difference compared to other streets in the city?
Yes, I think that's exactly right. And the purpose of that question is, are people out and about? And people want to know that. And so, you know, again, what's important is if we're charging for that service, then the service needs to be provided. But first of all, in order for residents to be able to check whether the service is being provided, is for them to know what service it is they're supposed to be getting. And so that's quite sensible. But I want to congratulate Councillor Stevens for his listening to what people were saying and having the good grace to do that today. That was very important. Thank you very much. But then we have got a load of other decisions on the table today, haven't we, John? Councillor Penberthy, you would like to say something?
Yeah, I think this is one where there's almost no easy way to deal with anything, and you know, even during this meeting, there've been messages coming in about this, and you know, I represent a ward where there are no residential streets that are basically free. Everyone has to have a permit. In some cases, there are substantially more permits issued than there are parking spaces in the parking zones, and that causes us problems. There are other parking zones, the one that I live in, I can sometimes have to park 5-10 minutes walk from my home to be able to park because there is so much demand on those parking spaces. Though that makes all of this very, very difficult. We live in a city where we do have dense inner city areas with housing that was built before cars had even been invented, and that does cause us quite a lot of headache. I think trying to work out the best way to do this is really difficult, and you know, it's good to hear that Councillor Stevens has listened to some of the concerns. I hasten to say that a number of years ago there were some residents who were members of the Home Neighbourhood Forum who were saying that we should do exactly this, and we didn't, and we still are now not, which is good news. But the reality is there is limited street space with increasing demand, and the inner city area tends to have demand not only of residents but of visitors too. And how we manage that, I think, is quite complicated. For those people who I'm sure are still writing to their ward councillors and to Councillor Stevens, you know, I've sent off a number of things to ask, to have questions answered, even this afternoon. I know I've got at least one of my local residents sitting in the room today listening to the debate, and it's great to see that engagement. And we do take that seriously. I think we do need to balance all of those issues. I hasten to say, in my ward, all of the parking problems we have, less than half of the households in our ward have a car. So imagine what it would be like if everyone actually did have a car and we were trying to find spaces for all of those. You know, this is really complicated. I congratulate John for the work he has done, but think this is probably something that we do need to keep under review overall to see its impact on people in Plymouth, because this is going to be an ongoing issue as we try to ensure that we balance all of the users who wish to park vehicles on the streets, especially the streets around the city centre and its environs.
All right, okay, well, thank you. And your amendment is noted in the list of recommendations. So I'm gonna now put all the recommendations as slightly tweaked to the meeting. Any last remarks from either of you before we close? John, you're okay? Right, thank you. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. And that's carried. Thank you. I'll now move on to item 11. Thank you both very much indeed. We've got another big item again today, which is the Plymouth Local Plan, Commencement, Programme and Delivery Arrangements. So we will await the arrival of Jonathan Bell, and Glenn is still here, holding the fort. Hello, Alistair and Rebecca. They're all here. The gang's all here. Yeah, no, that's okay. That's fine. Thank you. Oh yeah, we've got John's gone. Yeah, he's done a brilliant job. Now, what would be really witty is if we were to race through this item while John is out of the room. But I'm not going to do that to him. Yeah, lovely. No, it's great that. Thanks. No, it's marvellous. No, we're talking about the item you missed. Yeah. So, welcome to the Cabinet. Well, it feels like a bit of a moment again, doesn't it, this? Is it really 5 years? Is it 5 years or is it 10 years? It feels like 10 years. It can't be 10 years, can it? So it's 2019, there we are. So it's not 5 years, it's not 10 years, it's 6 years. Which is a weird period, I would say, for doing strategic plans, 6 years. I don't know why that is, but nevertheless, here we are. And I'm going to ask Councillor Stevens to introduce this item, and then we will interrogate you three, if that's all right. It'll be all right. It's okay. You've been here. You've been through this before. It's okay. Councillor Stevens, please.
Thank you, Leader. Before I introduce the report, which we have a short film that highlights, I hope so anyway, is that right? Yeah, good. A short film that highlights what our previous local plans have achieved for the city, which emphasise our strong focus on turning our visionary plans into delivery on the ground, which kind of is a great theme today from the start of this meeting. So over to the film.
That is amazing, that video. That's good. Do you know what? Sometimes I think this city is fantastic. And then you see videos like that and you say, and that's the reason why. And if there's any chance, by the way, I mean, can we put that somewhere so everybody will see it? Will that go out on the website and things like that? I don't just mean if you watch the cabinet today, if you're lucky enough to watch the cabinet meeting online. I mean, can we put it somewhere where it's in people's faces? You know, because that is a gallery of success. I mean, I know a lot of cities around this country would give their eye teeth to be able to make a video like that and leave so much out. That is amazing. Right, John, over to you.
Thank you. I'm glad that whetted your appetite for the new local plan and the challenges it needs to address for Plymouth in the coming decades. As you've seen from the film, our local plans have helped secure millions of pounds of funding to deliver major transport and green space infrastructure and blue space that the city needed to grow, as well as supporting new housing and industrial estates. So the report before us today is about Plymouth embarking on the journey of a brand new local plan that will shape the city's growth for decades to come, with residents at the heart of designing it. The plan will shape everything from where new homes will be built to how communities grow, how people travel, and how the city adapts to the huge opportunities ahead. Residents will be invited to help design the next chapter of Plymouth's future. It's hugely important that people in Plymouth feel involved. So I say to all residents, this is your city and your future. So my message today is we want your voice to be heard so the new local plan can be the best it can be for our great city of Plymouth. The new local plan will continue our commitment to a sustainable growth agenda. And of course, that now takes on a national and even international dimension, with Plymouth being declared a national centre for marine autonomy. It will provide for the intergenerational opportunities linked to the defence deal for the dockyard and the Team Plymouth programme. And it will set out the details of how the potential for a new town of around 10,000 homes in a reimagined vibrant city centre can be achieved. With a severe housing crisis facing the country and Plymouth, particularly in relation to the provision of affordable housing, I will be working very closely with my Cabinet colleague, Councillor Penberthy, so that we have a laser focus on delivering the homes that people need. The city urgently needs to boost housing supply, and the plan will help to identify the right places where new homes need to go. That will undoubtedly mean some difficult and, I dare say, some unpopular decisions. But if we don't provide enough homes in this next local plan, we will miss out on the once-in-a-generation economic opportunity I have already mentioned. The new local plan will look at the new infrastructure the city needs, enhancing and protecting the most important green spaces, the provision of new and expanded schools for our growing population, where new employment land can be provided, how we continue to support the unique regional role of the city centre, encompassing the city living framework upon which work has commenced, as we heard earlier, and upon which local people will be able to have their say from July, how we can address the impact of climate change, and much more besides. Because the new Plymouth local plan is so wide-ranging, I'm keen to engage with all my Cabinet colleagues to help tackle the key policy issues they are grappling with. So turning to the recommendations, recommendations 1, 2 and 4 seek approval to the local plan timetable, with delegation to the Service Director in consultation with me to make any future changes to the programme, so that we meet the mandatory 30-month plan preparation period and submit the necessary statutory documents of all the necessary evidence-based documents and studies. Recommendation 11 covers how we propose to engage with the Scrutiny Management Board as part of the overall local plan timetable. And recommendation 7 instructs officers to formally report back to this Cabinet for the statutory consultation stage, so we have oversight and give explicit approval to that part of the process. And recommendation 8 requires a further report to Cabinet on the content of the Plymouth local plan. Following the statutory consultation, recommendation 9 requires Cabinet approval to any changes to the plan to take account of comments received. And recommendation 10 delegates authority to submit the proposed Plymouth local plan for independent examination. Last but one, recommendation 12 authorises officers to explore options for future waste and mineral planning, including a separate joint minerals and waste plan with Devon County Council or successor authorities. And lastly, recommendation 13 requires the consultations of the Plymouth local plan to be undertaken in accordance with the Council's engagement and consultation framework and the statutory requirements of the local plan regulations, which were published on the 3rd of March
and come into force on the 25th of March. Leader, as you can see from the introductory paragraphs of the environmental issues of the age, it is now our turn to rise to this challenge and plan for the city through to the middle of the century so our young people have affordable homes, access to good jobs, and live in a vibrant, culturally diverse place they're all proud to call home. Thank you, Leader, and I ask now for the support of Cabinet for this exciting endeavour.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Okay, so middle of next century, or the 100. Do you mean that? Because the last one went to 2034. So when's this one going to?
As we're currently anticipating, we'll take this to 2050. Statutorily, we need to do 15 years from the adoption date, but we think 2050 would make sense.
I mean, what's different now compared with 2019 is that what we were talking about earlier on when the consultant team were in, which is potential for Newtown, potential for 10,000 houses in the city centre, 50-year work programme for the dockyard. I mean, these are certainties that weren't there when we wrote the last plan. I mean, the last plan was a hit and hope sort of thing. I mean, we had quite a bit to base it on. It wasn't all fantasy, as that video shows very clearly. It wasn't. But feels now we're writing this plan with a bit more certainty than we've enjoyed for decades.
That's absolutely right, Leader. I mean, I've been involved in leading on local plans in the city since the 1990s, and there has been a lot. I mean, it's been very much at the heart of the growth agenda. We've responded to the Mackey vision. It's been a vision-led and delivery-focused approach. As you know, we've won many awards, but there's something different this time, I feel. And actually, to be honest, this document that I was looking at outside really kind of sums it up, really. We have, I think, in this particular local plan, something that we've never had before, which is a national security dimension to the degree that we do. So with the investment in the defence sector, the National Marine Centre National Centre for Marine Autonomy, obviously the Homes England Strategic Partnership, the town in the city, it's an incredibly exciting, and it feels different this time round to me, if I'm being honest, Leader. I think it is, we haven't had this scale of ambition and potential growth where we could even see the doubling of the economy in the city. And that's going to bring lots of challenges. We need to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place, and I include housing in that infrastructure, because housing isn't necessarily just about responding to existing need, which we do have, a very significant housing need, but it's also now in this context about making sure it's seen as infrastructure to help facilitate that growth, particularly with the defence-related growth that we're going to see, and also in terms of the employment floor space, where we're going to need a lot more. And I think we've got some particular challenges there around the marine autonomy and waterfront sites, for example. So, yeah, I think there's something a bit different this time. And we've got LGR, of course, and the climate crisis with the need for a resilient city as well. So
easy, really. But I'm going to say this. You know, I mean, that video is as much about what the team in Plymouth Planning Department have achieved. I mean, we've all had, you know, I mean, obviously the council as a whole has made that contribution, you know, ED has, Transport does, you know, but the planners, I mean, you started off, you know, modestly putting the 3 Jubilee Cups up, but actually you should do that, because that's the certainty of the skill and the talent that the planning department in this city council has at its disposal to make plans like this, Jonathan. And, you know, that shouldn't go without saying. You know, everywhere I go, I make sure I talk about the award-winning planning department in Plymouth, because it's a source of immense pride, you know, of what's been built through generations. I mean, you know, you and I go back a while to, you know, the waterfront team and all that stuff that happened all those years ago. And, you know, there's a lot happened, but this does feel now, and the potential for the expansion of Plymouth's boundaries as well, in terms of being able to realise our potential. And that's where I want to go with questions to you now, because, you know, the last one was a joint local plan, as you said, a first one, and it was very successful. But what we may be doing now is making plans for a larger footprint for in which the council operates. I mean, Plymouth will still be Plymouth, Ivy Bridge will still be Ivy Bridge, and Wembury will still be Wembury. But those places don't change, but the potential for Plymouth, realising its potential, is enormous now, and that puts an even greater pressure on us, I think. So it's not about constraining our potential; it's actually about releasing our potential. So can you explain to us? You know, I mean, you know, when you come out to consult with the public, it's like, is there a blank piece of paper you start with, or do you? I mean, last time I think we had a settee and a rug and a lamp standard, didn't we? I mean, what have you got anything crazy like that lined up this time?
Well, we did wonder, Leader, about getting the settee out of storage, but we haven't probably gone quite that crazy just yet. But we feel that there's a legacy of engagement that we're building off, including the LGR engagement, actually. So we've got a very, as a city, we always, regardless of whether there's LGR or not, we know that we sit within a sub-regional context, and therefore we have to understand that wider sub-region and how the city relates to that sub-region, and understand the needs of that place, because the city is a great benefit to the rural hinterland, but it also works the other way as well. So it's that kind of mutually sort of shared benefit, really, that we can get from doing planning well in this area. And obviously we've got the experience of being in the joint local plan, where we led a lot of that work. We understand that area. So I'm very confident whatever shape that LGR ends up as, we're going to be very well placed for a local plan where we understand the needs of the area that we're serving, but also our relationship with surrounding areas, which I think is going to be really important. And that will also sit within the context, because the government is setting up this new system of spatial development strategies, which will be much wider. So there will be a much stronger regional framework as well. So I feel that a lot of the pieces of the jigsaw are coming in place. There will, of course, be extensive engagement. I guess it's never totally blank sheet of paper, because we're starting with the city and we're starting with an amount of investment that you've already referred to, and things that have already been happening. We're more building off what has been done in the past, and building off a lot of the great work that's been done across the city, some of which I think you've been hearing about earlier in your meeting.
So, I mean, I'm quite excited about the potential for development in the east. I'm excited about the potential for development in the city centre. The other dimension for me is the sustainable transport thing. We've been talking earlier on about cars. I know there's a lot of them. I know probably we've got to get to grips with sustainable transport as making this city work, and more importantly, getting people to work actually is going to be fundamentally more difficult as we grow. So it's going to be important that whatever this plan says, it has a lot to say about transport, and it has to be more ambitious about transport. So we've been talking off-ramp about stuff like a new railway station for Plimpton, and getting that Ivy Bridge to city centre kind of thing done, the Cornish Metro and linking everything together at Plymouth and all those sort of things. They're going to be part of this, and presumably because if we're not advocates for those things right from the get-go, they're not going to get done. And we need to make Team Plymouth part of those, don't we? We need to turn Team Plymouth into advocates for our local plan as well, if we're to realise our ambition.
That's absolutely the case, Leader. Transport will be absolutely fundamentally important. There's already transport workshops taking place through Team Plymouth. We have initial work underway in relation to looking at the transport strategy moving forward. I mean, one of the things I think we can be proud about in terms of our previous local plan work, which hopefully gives us confidence for the future, is that some of our major transport interventions have been conceived through local plan work. So, for example, the Forder Valley Link Road, the Derriford Transport Corridor, which have been about unlocking the potential of growth in the city. But I guess it's much, and you're absolutely right, it's much more than that. It's about helping people to get around the city in a sustainable way, get to work, I mean, it's going to be a major issue in terms of the defence investment. And that's going to have sub-regional dimensions to it. So rail is going to be particularly, I think, significant in that context, as well as maybe our more traditional look at buses. So transport will have to be interwoven, and it will very much affect the kind of growth strategy, I think, in terms of where we would see some of the major housing developments going in the future.
Thank you. And John, having so kindly referenced me, I think that this is an exciting and important opportunity. We've talked about the city centre, but the city centre cannot meet all of the city's needs for housing, for retail, for employment, for leisure, or for anything else, because we are a whole city. If we were to take the current waiting list at 7,500 households and provide them all with a house, and generously say that we'd achieve 25% of all new housing through planning, we'd need 30,000 new homes. Now, we know that we don't need all 7.5, but that puts it into some perspective of what we're seeking to achieve here. Now, that number of new homes, if we do low level, low density, will swallow up Plymouth. And I don't think any of us want that. And I think this is part of the process that this paper kicks off. It's a chance for people to engage, to think about the future. Do we go and swallow every green space? Or do we look about how we go higher and change some of the ways that not just the city centre, but some other communities might have their district centres working? Do we think about things like that differently? Where are people going to work? And is it all scattered around the edge? Or are there other employment sites? Do we need to reimagine the way the city works? Should all the leisure be in the waterfront and in Central Park? Should we think about what leisure looks like? And I'm really pleased that recommendation 13 acknowledges the importance of the community engagement framework as the way to do this, because we need to work with people. So my appeal would be for people to engage back as we tackle some really tough conversations, and to do those in ways that are thinking about what do people want for their children and their grandchildren over the next 25, 30 years as we shape the Plymouth of the future. And that is going to be really important. Lida, you talked earlier about those of us who go around and visit other cities to look at things. And I know that every city is different, but I went last year to look at Salford. Now, 20 years ago, Salford was Manchester's car park. And they thought about what they needed to do for sustainable transport and inner city intensification. Salford is now a thriving city with a whole centre that is not only media, but all sorts of other businesses and enterprises and housing on what was derelict car park land around the docks. And I think that's the sort of place where if you begin to look at, if you take some tough decisions, but if you look at some vision and you can do it together, you can really transform a place. And we're talking today a lot about transforming Plymouth. This is going to give people a really structured opportunity to engage again in the way that they did sort of 15 years ago in the development of the joint local plan, in developing a new local plan. And I think that's really important. So I just wanted to say, really outside this room, to encourage people to engage. Just thinking about local government reorganisation, obviously this document refers a lot to Plymouth at the moment, and it might refer to other councils. I just wonder whether it's worth mentioning at the start that any reference to any other council includes successor bodies, so that if there are changes, that can be done. I think if that's possible to work into the recommendations, that would be sensible, because otherwise we might end up trying to negotiate with people who are no longer there. Thank you, Leader.
That's right. Well, for a start, we know Devon County won't be a county. Whatever it is, it won't be a county council. It'll be a council of some description with a name, which may include Devon, but it might not be county, for example. And we don't know. I mean, so on minerals, for example, and waste, although Exeter is 40 miles away, it might be a unitary authority by then and may have therefore some responsibility on some minerals too. So therefore, it will no longer necessarily in that area be the responsibility of Devon County Council, because Devon won't be there. So it's important that we give ourselves that flex by using successor bodies or some such legal language. I'm looking at you, to make sure that we can work with who we need to work with in 18 months' time, because there may be new bodies. That's a really good point. I mean, the thing is about it's not working on constraints, and working in 3D is going to be really important in the next 10 years, right? That thing around we always go out and we don't go up. And you know, we've kind of described this before. What was interesting earlier on with the discussion we were having about the future living framework for the city centre, I mean, there's this thing around, you know, when I was a kid and when I used to come down to the West Country for holidays, you know, we always had a race on to see who was the first to be able to see the sea. You know, and the joy in the car is I can see the sea. And actually, there's loads of places, even though people live in Plymouth, they can't see the sea from. And one of the things we would be able to do with going up is actually have far more people being able to get up in the morning and say, I can see the sea. It's quite unusual in Plymouth, isn't it? Because, you know, the city centre's in a dip. But actually, you know, the height gives you that opportunity and that sense of place. It's a real opportunity to spread the joy, I think. You know, it's not just for people who live right on the edge. We can get more people in Plymouth enjoying that benefit, I think. Anyway, this is so exciting, John, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because I remember the last time we did this, and it was like, you know, pretty fantastic. And what you did, and the innovation that you did, the planning team in preparing that plan, that was also quite exciting. I still dine out on the story of that settee and that carpet and that lamp standard, right? And people, you know, people wanted to know how we did it, and I said we did it. I mean, that wasn't the only thing we did, right? You know, but it was, you know, it was about the conversation. That's what it was about. That's what you were engineering there, wasn't it? A proper conversation about stuff that most people don't really get involved in. So we want to do that again. Maybe it's different now with the lamp standard. Maybe that's too old hat, but I'm sure you'll think of something. I know you'll think of something. Okay, so are we happy to agree the recommendations with the tweaks? I want to come back to John to finish off in case there's anything we've forgotten, John.
Do the recommendation vote first, and then I want to say
I know you want to talk about have some friends, don't you? All right. Yeah. Okay. So we'll do that. But can I, before we go to the recommendations, I'll bring you in now on that if I could. Is that all right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Leader. I just want to finish this session by, as you know, Paul Barnard, our Strategic Director for Strategic Planning and Infrastructure, will be retiring in May, and so this will be the last report that he's helped bring to Cabinet. I don't want to let the opportunity pass to pay tribute to the incredible service that Paul has given to the city since he joined in 1991. His contribution to the city, and indeed to the world of town planning nationally over these years, has been quite remarkable. It wasn't long after he started with the City Council that he was making a significant impact, leading the regeneration programme for the Barbican, which won the British Urban Regeneration Association Award and Secretary of State's Award for Partnership Generation in 1996. And in 2003, he led the development of the radical vision for Plymouth produced by Barcelona architect Dave Mackay. This vision helped shift the mindset of the city towards a much more ambitious, confident stance. And I remember myself, people not seeing that in the early days. Actually, it's coming to fruition. It's happening. You know, it's happening. He took over a leadership of a failing planning department and turned it into a multiple award-winning service that is built on a philosophy of proactive planning orientated to growth and delivery. And we've seen evidence of that today, clearly. Plymouth is still the only council to have won the top planning award in the country, the RTPI's Silver Jubilee Cup, more than once. In fact, not more than once, it's won it 3 times. In recognition of his contribution to the planning profession, he was awarded the RTPI, that's Royal, thank you, Gold Medal in 2019, an award that has been given only 16 times since 1953, and an MBE in the Queen's New Year's Honours in 2020. I could say much more, as I usually do, but I don't have time. Paul has laid excellent foundations, literally, to ensure that our next local plan for Plymouth will continue to be positive, proactive, growth-orientated and delivery-focused. And I'm sure on behalf of the Cabinet here, I'd like to wish Paul well in the future and thank him for the tremendous legacy he's leaving in this city.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I would like to add an additional recommendation on the basis of that we send a vote of thanks to Paul Barnard, MB, for his service. It's weird, this 1991 business, because, you know, I remember we were at an award ceremony in one of the wind-blown tents on Plymouth Hoe. And we were, you know, the staff awards. And he had a 25-year award given to him. And he said to me, "Why are they giving me this? I haven't been here 25 years. Now, he must have been by now. But, you know, it's going to be incredibly different without him here. But if you think about the number of people that he's brought on through his career, who are no longer with us here, but they're doing great work in other places. Happily, we've still got some of the people that he's brought along with us here and available to us now. But I would share everything you've said about Barney, and you know, we're going to miss him. We are going to miss him. I also like to thank him for his work he's done along with Ross on LGR, because that's been really significant as well. And I'm still not absolutely sure, as an Ivy Bridge resident, whether he's entirely happy that Plymouth is looking to bring in Ivy Bridge. But we'll discover that in due course, I'm sure. But we owe him a great deal of thanks. And when you see him, I know he's not one for great goodbyes either. So, you know, he'll hate this. But, you know, nevertheless, we want him to know how much he is valued by us. And he's the other thing about him is he was able to serve all cabinets and all chairs of planning previous to cabinet with incredible professionalism, and yeah, we owe him a lot. So I'm going to put all those recommendations to you now. So could I see all those in favour, please show? Thank you very much indeed. And thank you. And we'll see you again soon for updates regularly. Thank you all very much. Thank you for that, John. I'm going to move to item 12 now. David Haley is online. He's been there all afternoon with a poker face, which is really marvellous. And I have to say that was incredibly skillful. I've been looking at the corner of my eye there, David, just to see. But you've held that expression beautifully all afternoon. I have to say that's marvellous. And now we're going to hear about SEND sufficiently planned progress. I'm sure Councillor Cresswell, who's going to introduce this item, Amanda's here as well. Hi, Amanda. Sally might mention one or two other things about SEND. I just have a feeling. But we'll start then. I mean, everything on this is in supplement pack. It's on page 1 of the supplement pack is where it starts. So over to you, Sally, and then to Amanda and David.
Thank you very much, Leader. I'm really delighted to present this particular paper because Plymouth is entering a pivotal period for the future of its education estate and the support it provides to children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities, SEND. Extensive national reforms announced on the 23rd of February set a renewed expectation that local areas will expand high-quality, inclusive provision within mainstream schools and develop new inclusion bases in every secondary school and ensure that more children can have their needs met closer to home. Falling birth rates as well as rising levels of identified special education needs reflected in a significant increase in the number of educational healthcare plans, EHCPs. This is reshaping the ways the education system must respond. It is this changing landscape that the reforms are addressing, and this will bring many opportunities for our city, and particularly, of course, and obviously to our children and young people. It is such an exciting and critical time for our education ecosystem here in Plymouth as we continue to work together to improve educational outcomes of every single learner. We want each and every child to know they matter, that they can play a role in shaping the city they live and be part of it now and part of creating its ever brighter future. Currently, too many children are educated outside of Plymouth, and this is one of the reasons these reforms are so vital. We are not alone as a local authority and experience real financial challenges and a deficit to the dedicated schools grant. We welcome announcements that the central government has confirmed it will cover up to 90% of the DSG deficit. It's also providing over £3 billion in capital to increase over 60,000 places across the country in a bid to reduce the reliance on independent specialist provision. Outcomes for all children are better in maintained and NAT schools, whether specialist or mainstream, and therefore it makes sense to bring children into state provision wherever possible. In Plymouth, we have seen a significant rise in the number of children attending independent specialist provision. In the autumn term of 2024, this was a cost to the Plymouth DSG high needs block of 5.2 million, whereas in autumn term 2025, the cost had risen to 8.5 million, an increase of 38%. The cost increases illustrate the desperate need for reforms and for our whole council response in delivering in line with them. This is not just about cost, it's about having children being able to learn in our city, close to their friends and neighbours and communities, in high quality provision. It also happens to make fiscal sense. When you further consider the average savings of £3,000 per child per year in home-to-school transport for every child who stays within the city and does not attend an ISP, there is also potential revenue savings as well from this strategy. The good news is, in Plymouth, we have been leading the way and anticipating the detail of the reforms. You may have noted that Plymouth featured as a case study in the white paper, which speaks of the exceptional partnership we have with our education community. The case study highlights the differences made for our children through extensive collaboration and commitment to excellent outcomes for all. Of course, there remains more to do, but look how far we have already come, and the reforms will enable us to deliver for even more of our children. The local area SEND partnership believes wholeheartedly in inclusion. It's an ideology that unites us across organisational boundaries and is the beating heart of our endeavours. As an intrinsic part of the delivery of the reforms, and with this ethical and moral imperative driving us, we are well placed to deliver an exciting and ambitious SEND capital programme in Plymouth, keeping children at the heart of all we do. This paper sets out how Plymouth will respond to these national reforms and local challenges and provides an outline of what we've already achieved. There are strong foundations already in place, including successful expansion of specialist and targeted early intervention provision and collaborative relationships across our highly academised education system. It also identifies the major capital considerations ahead, most notably the essential rebuild, and I say this, the essential rebuild of Milford School and the opportunities presented by surplus capacity in parts of the school estate. I'd like to pay tribute on behalf of Plymouth City Council to Claire Wills, head teacher at Milford School, the governors, the friends, families, children and young people at this outstanding Ofsted graded school for their determination and commitment in managing an ageing school environment with so much tenacity. Details of how we will rebuild the school will follow, and this paper describes the necessity and our commitment to delivering a new school. This will be one of the many projects, and we look forward to sharing a detailed plan now the reforms are published, knowing that we are very much on the right track. In summary, the report produces and provides a strategic overview of the government's new expectations for inclusive education, the work we've already done in projecting the need for SEND places and how it will now align with the details of the reforms, the financial pressures and the potential cost avoidance to the high needs block and home to school transport for every single place we create in the city, the governance as well and the system approach now in place to deliver a large-scale SEND capital programme. The purpose of this paper is to ensure that Cabinet is fully sighted on the scale of demand, the implications of national policy and the proposed direction of travel. It seeks endorsement to continue developing a comprehensive capital and sufficiency plan that meets the needs of Plymouth's children and young people, supports financial sustainability and strengthens inclusive education across our city. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Sally Cresswell, for that. There's some good news in there, wasn't there? Amanda, anything to add?
Nothing to add. That's very comprehensive. Thank you, Councillor Cresswell.
I think I've got to say this because I am entitled to say this, I think, as the chair of the Labour-controlled City Council. But, I've been increasingly concerned about the noises coming out of reform lately about SEND. I think, to be frank with you, I think they have to be condemned out of hand because they're making those kids the enemy. And we've got to stand up against that, and we've got to call it out when we hear it, because make no mistake, reform councils and reform councillors are trying to cut savagely into SEND provision. Some of the statements they've been making lately about assessments of those kids have no basis in fact whatsoever, actually, sound more like a drunken conversation in a pub than a responsible public sector body that's actually responsible for care of all its children. So, we're going to continue to call out that, by the way. We're not going to hide from it. It needs saying. And what I would say on behalf of this administration is we take the needs of SEND children very seriously indeed. And our commitment won't just be in terms of that new school that we will help to create, but it will be in terms of inclusion. And inclusion will be such an important part of our work over the next few years. We were doing that anyway. What has been really, really exciting is having a Secretary of State and a minister who really understand that agenda and want to see it too. So we feel, I think, really empowered to make the changes that need to be made. And to all the MATs and all the school leaders, I will say, we're not talking words here, we're talking deeds. And we're going to make sure of that. All right? Just want to say that out loud because I think it's really important. To those parents, we're on your side. That's what I want to say. But more importantly, to the children, we're on your side. I'm excited about building a new school. Actually, we haven't done that for a while. And it does take some doing, doesn't it? Because, if you haven't had a lot of practice, actually, what do you need? I remember when we built all the new schools a few years ago, how long was it? Sally was still a teacher then, deputy head teacher then. It was that long ago, but, we hadn't done it for a while. When we did that education plan, it was the first time since the Second World War that Plymouth had planned a new education estate. I remember that very well. But when they built them after the war in Plymouth, they built them as hospitals. Do you remember that? And all the corridors were like massively wide to get hospital beds through, not kids. And that was the sort of legacy that we had in the estate at that time. So it'd be really quite exciting to see what a new school looks like these days. Noel Primary, that's right, we moved it, didn't we, from that over there to over here? Yes, we did, you're quite right. But it's, this is gonna be really interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing the plans, quite quickly, for, this new school. And, you know, like I say, the size of which, I think it's got to suit our needs rather than the needs of the site, if I could put it like that. Again, a signal I'm trying to send out today very loudly and very clearly, to council officials. Okay. Well, if Amanda doesn't want to say anything, and Sally's said enough, you haven't said enough, have you?
I was going to say two things. One is that I think in terms of government, we've actually got the real experts who are there, who are actually, also the money's being put in as well. It's actually being front loaded. There's money there in terms to these reforms. It's not about saving money. It's actually making sure that we have the right things in place, which are going to serve all of our children and young people really well. And you get it right. My answer to reform would be, if you get it right for your most vulnerable children, your youngest children, then you get it right absolutely for all children. And there's one other thing as well, is that, turning to Amanda, is this likely to be your last cabinet? So I just want to quickly say is that Amanda has been not just absolutely key in terms of driving this and this paper and so much related, so many aspects of education in the city, but also the fantastic work that she has done with our head teachers and our CEOs of our multi-academy trusts, has built up these fantastic relationships, and that is one, and relationships are key to making things happen. They are so important, and you can never ever be undervalued, and Amanda has been so key in terms of driving that, and her passion for all of our children so that they can achieve and they can thrive and be the absolute best they could be. So I want to say thank you to Amanda, and how much I have enjoyed working with you, and how much we understand each other. We understand that passion for our children and our young people. So thank you.
I'd like to add my thanks to you too. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed our conversations, and I wish we were able to have more, but I wish you very well for what happens next. And we've enjoyed your time with us. I feel at this point I ought to ask David Haley something. I don't know why, but he's been there. He's been there, sitting there all afternoon. So I just wonder, do you want to add anything, David, about how excited you are?
Just to prove that I am real. I am real, and I've been taking it all in. So all I would just reinforce, I suppose, is that the paper does set out how well placed we are in relation to the delivery of the reforms, and that isn't accidental. It is because we have been watching carefully what we had expected to see in the SEND white paper, and have reserved some of our resources in order to be able to address the approach as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible with our schools. So the fact that the majority of what we thought was going to be there is there, it has put us in a really strong position. Only today we are receiving from the DFE both the maturity matrix that every local authority is to complete with its SEND local area partnership, and also later this week a template, which is the government's template for all of the local area action plans from every local authority that is required. And again, we're really well placed for that. Those plans they have to be with the department by about the third week in June, but we have committed to our local partnership meeting on the 21st of April, receiving both the maturity matrix and the plan, in order that we can be 2 months ahead of the game, get that into government and start to have conversations with them about the release of the funding, because the plan is the first step in a series of gateways that the government will be putting in place in releasing the funding that has been allocated to us. So just to reinforce, really, we are really ahead of the game with regards to that. The report does set out that we have created those 73 places in 3 of our special schools, and we have a 4th one that's advanced planning stages, and with working collaboratively with our multi-academy trust chief execs and head teachers who are working with us well, as you've already noted, and noted, and thank Amanda for her contribution to that. We have over 300 more children now in targeted provision, and our aim is that those children's needs can be met as they grow up through their schooling in a maintained education setting, in a mainstream education setting, and they don't require either an education, health and care plan or a special school provision in order that their needs can be met. So, and then, as you've said at the end, Councillor Evans, absolutely, in terms of the pace and progress with the preparation work, the feasibility work to identify which is the best site in the city for a replacement for Milford School, and where we have all the components in place in order to achieve that as quickly as we can in relation to the initial decisions, and then the exciting bit about the plans for the school, working those up with the head teacher, with the school representatives, with some of the children and young people in the school community, doing a full piece of consultation work on that to arrive at the best plans that we can, and start to get them coming out of the ground. So it is a really exciting time for SEND in the city, and thank everyone that's contributed to that.
Thank you very much. I mean, it really is important that you know, this is that September deadline of 2030, 2029 is met. It's met. You know, that's a given, I think. And, you know, we want to keep making sure, we certainly in the Cabinet will be keeping the pressure on to make sure that deadline is met, because consequences of not meeting it are too grave to contemplate, actually, I think. Okay, so all we got to do now, I think, is agree some recommendations, which is basically that we note the update, which is what we're going to do. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. And congratulations to all, by the way. Anybody who's done anything to do with feeding into the government's decision on SEND as well as recent results, well done. Actually, good to have a government that's listening to us on SEND at last, I think. Right, I'm going to move on, if that's all right with everybody. We need this room quite quickly, I think. They've definitely been booked, so I'm going to move swiftly on to leaders' announcements. So if that's all right, I want to use this moment to shine a light on something genuinely significant, scale and pace of what this Cabinet has been delivering for Plymouth. People often ask, what does this council actually do? They hear the noise, they see the politics, but what they really want to know is anything actually happening? So I asked officers to pull together every executive decision this administration has made since May. The answer is more than 90. You've all been very busy. 90 executive decisions in 9 months. Decisions that are changing lives, strengthening communities, shaping Plymouth's future. And I want to talk about what some of those decisions mean for the people who call the city home. So we purchased new children's homes so children in our care can stay in Plymouth, close to their schools, close to their friends, close to everything familiar. We've commissioned a new safe accommodation service, giving survivors of domestic abuse and their children somewhere to securely rebuild their lives. We've helped young people in residential care move into family settings, and we've expanded SEND capacity at Longcourse Special School, giving more children the specialist places they need and deserve. On housing and regeneration, we're pushing forward with the Defence Partnership and the City Centre Regeneration Programme, bringing new homes, new jobs and new opportunities to Plymouth, backed by a £4.4 billion investment by the government, by this Labour government, in the investment at Devonport. The long empty civic centre is finally moving ahead with Homes England, ready to become a site of real purpose again. Homes and employment for young people, and also a magnificent setting for City College. We've also approved a warm homes grant offering practical help to residents struggling with energy bills so their homes become warmer, greener and cheaper to heat. On transport and the environment, going to steal Tom's thunder, we've invested in the Highways Capital Programme, which means potholes repaired, it means roads resurfaced, safer journeys for everyone. We've awarded food waste collection contract, delivering a curbside service residents have been longing for. And we adopted a 25-year plan for Plymouth and South Devon Community Forest, demonstrating our long-term commitment to a greener, healthier city. On health and well-being, we extended Plymouth Active Leisure, keeping affordable swimming and fitness available across the city. We've driven forward the Adult Social Care Improvement Plan, improving support for older people and vulnerable adults who depend on our services. We launched Connect to Work, giving residents real practical help to get into employment. We created a new city brand strategy to tell Plymouth's story with confidence across the country. And we introduced a public spaces protection order in our car parks so residents and shoppers feel safer in the places that they use every day. And through all of this, we have delivered a balanced budget for 26-27 in the toughest financial environment local government has ever faced, while protecting the frontline services that people can rely on. Over 90 decisions. Every corporate plan priority delivered against, all taken in public, all on the record. This is what effective, focused, and determined local government looks like. This is how this Labour administration governs. I'm now moving on to the rest of you. Are there any cabinet members who would like to say something? Councillor Lang.
Thank you very much, Leader. I'm going to start with a really lovely thing that happened during February half term. 9 of our children in care, children living with kinship carers and birth children of our foster carers, had an adventure away from home experience at Dartmoor Zoo, which was an amazing opportunity delivered by our great supporters, Dartmoor Zoo, in partnership with UK Youth. Adventures Away from Home aims to enable young people to step outside, discover their potential, and build skills that last a lifetime through outdoor learning, developing confidence, resilience, social skills, and overall well-being. And they certainly got to do some things that I doubt any of us have done. They were able to clean out the zebras, check the reptile tanks, hold many creatures from the reptile house, fed the monkeys, and made toys for the big cats, and saw so many fantastic animals up close. Another day has been offered enabling even more of our children to benefit from this amazing experience. So a big thank you to Dartmoor Zoo and UK Youth for their support. Downham House, our council-owned home for children with disabilities, received an unannounced Ofsted inspection at the end of January and was judged good in all areas. Inspectors praised the warm relationships within the home, the sensitive and individualised care provided, and the team's strong understanding of children's vulnerabilities and communication needs. Leadership was described as dedicated and highly valued, and there were some development actions such as improving recording and reporting. Those are already underway and have been identified by us, and the team remains incredibly proud, as they should be, of their work and of achieving a good rating once again. And I'm also delighted to provide an update on the transformative work currently being delivered by our community youth team. Following an investment of over £1.8 million secured through the Youth Investment Fund and the Climate Emergency Impact Fund, we're nearing the completion of the extensive renovations at both the Efford and Honick Knoll Youth Centres. These 1960s era buildings have been stripped back and modernised to create energy efficient, safe and inclusive spaces. Crucially, the designs were driven by a consultation with 341 of our city's young people who prioritise facilities like mental health support, areas, high-speed Wi-Fi and kitchen spaces, and they have got all of that in spades. We're currently in a phased reopening. Phase 1 and 2 is a soft launch and live testing with small groups of young people so we can work out the flow of the buildings and make sure it meets the needs and what they're expecting from us. And phase 3, we anticipate a phasing towards a full opening by the end of April 2026. This physical transformation is matched by the exceptional quality of our staff's work, and in February, the National Youth Agency awarded the team an excellent rating. across all the areas that they were assessed on, including governance, leadership and youth work practice. And as we move into full operation, I'm proud to announce the service is rebranding to Cosmo. That's what our youth service is going to be called, the space to be you. That was a name which was chosen by the young people and reflects our mission to provide empowering environments for every young person in Plymouth. I also want to mention International Women's Day. Yesterday was International Women's Day, and it invites us to reflect on the vital contributions women make across every part of this organisation, our city and our communities and society as a whole. I was at a great International Women's Day event yesterday, and it was lovely to be asked to say some words at an International Women's Day event at Sherwell Church this morning. And I think it's important to say, you know, I'm really pleased to be in a gender-balanced cabinet. And you might think, why are you talking about that? Because I did a bit of research this morning, and there's a council, Lancashire County Council, has no women in its cabinet. That's a reform council. Not one woman is making those decisions in that place, not one woman. And so I think it's really important to underline the importance of why we need International Women's Day, because there are barriers that still exist, and we can all consider what role each of us can play in fostering meaningful change. In my speech this morning, I suggested, and I've done it myself, that each of us could contact a woman today who we really admire and tell them why we admire them. And I can tell you it means a lot when people do that to you as a surprise and unbidden. And just very quickly to finish off about the box. The box has continued, I'm sorry, I'm talking very fast because I know we're running out of time. The box has continued to deliver exceptional results this financial year, and we've welcomed more than 300,000 visitors to date. And this milestone means the venue has already surpassed last year's total footfall of over 280,000, which marks a really significant achievement for the city's cultural offer. A key driver behind this impressive performance is the continuing success of the Beryl Cook exhibition. It's just remained an incredible major attraction, drawing consistently high visitor numbers and generating strong public interest both locally and beyond. And its popularity reflects the incredible enduring appeal of Beryl Cook's work and the high quality programming delivered by the Box's curatorial and engagement teams. And these figures highlight the Box's growing role as a cultural and community hub, contributing to the city's reputation and offering valuable economic, educational and social benefits. And this sustained increase in footfall follows a year of diverse exhibitions, events and partnerships that have helped broaden its reach and deepen its connection with residents and visitors alike. And my birthday treat was to sit and watch Lisa Rahana's installation In Pursuit of Venus, Infected, which is 34 minutes long. And I sat and watched it in full, and I just thought, it's incredible. We have this extraordinary installation here in Plymouth, and it's free, and everybody can go and see it for free. And I absolutely urge you to go and see it. It's extraordinary. I've never seen anything like it. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, and happy birthday for last week, by the way. Right, next on my list is John Stevens.
I'll do them in full council next week, Leader. That's okay.
Thank you. Sally Hayden.
Once again, I'm quite happy to do it in full council.
Okay. Tom Brosdale.
Yes, same. I've got quite a few, so happy to delay them to another day.
Fair enough. Chris Pemberthy.
I'll do one of them today, if I may, because it's about this week.
Yep.
I'm leaving one, though. I'm doing that reluctantly because there is an appeal from two charities within it. So if there is time, I would like to do it, but I'm just being nodded to do it. So I'll do two and do them as quickly as possible. First of all, I want to talk about empty homes because this is the beginning of Empty Homes Week, and we have a fantastic empty homes team here, and I just wanted to tell you a little about some of the work they're doing. This week, tackling empty homes not only has a positive impact on housing supply, but the sustainable reuse of properties supports our climate goals and benefits local communities. The Empty Homes team are involved in the delivery of Repair and Rent scheme, which does exactly that by supporting the renovation and retrofit of empty homes. The aim of the scheme is encouraging more landlords to make homes available at an affordable rent, which is more in line with the local housing allowance. They've partnered with Plymouth Homes for Let, who manage the renovation and subsequent letting of the properties. The scheme allows them to work with Community Connections to house homeless families, and a 3-bedroom property has recently been completed in Peveril, and a family moved in last week. The team are currently working on a second 3-bedroom property in Milehouse, which will also house a homeless family. Plymouth has a proactive empty homes team, and officers work hard to identify empty properties and engage with the owners. Most of them are able to be moved with that support without needing a lot of extra stuff from the council, because everyone's circumstances are different. But sometimes owners don't engage or say they'll do things and don't, and we need to do more. And I just wanted to tell you a little about that, because this is the extreme, but I want people to know that if they have empty homes and aren't tackling them, we will step in. And the team are currently working on 2 compulsory purchase orders. Both are long-term empty properties that have had a detrimental impact on neighbourhoods and the local communities, and local residents ask us to act. The first one, in Pennecombe Quick, has been confirmed. The inspector has said we can take possession, and we will be doing that by the end of March. It will be sold to allow a new owner to renovate and occupy the property. The second one, in Tamerton Foliot, is in the final stages of the process, and we're just waiting to hear from the planning inspector. If the order is confirmed, this property will also be sold to allow renovation and occupation. Another way we do this is through an enforced sale, and we're currently doing that in Lipson. The property's been abandoned by the owner after they moved abroad. There's a large council tax debt. Property's in a poor state of repair, and due to a rat infestation, the public protection team are working with the empty homes team by serving a notice and carrying out works in default. The property will be sold to recover these debts and to allow the property to be brought back into use. Empty homes are a wasted resource that could be used to provide much needed housing in Plymouth. We'd like to work with people who have empty properties to bring them back into use, so please contact our teams. But if you don't, please be aware that we're not afraid to take action to resolve issues in local communities. Leader, the second one I am going to do, because it is a good news story, but there is an appeal in it. And we all know there is an acute need for supported temporary housing provision in Plymouth. Our Housing Solutions team has successfully supported 449 households from becoming homeless since April. Yet even with these interventions, the need is soaring. We've seen a 162% increase in temporary accommodation demand in the same period. In January of this year, there were 192 young people aged between 18 and 25 in Band B on the housing register. And that, I think, is appalling. 2 years ago, we were pleased to announce that Plymouth was successful in securing substantial government funding to provide more supported housing as part of our response to tackle homelessness. As a council, we were instrumental in the success of each of these bids, amongst which was the largest individual national award. And I'm really pleased that it was YMCA Exeter in partnership with Young Devon that were that successful bidder. Since then, they've been working to develop 47 flats for young people, and later this month, the first residents will move in. In total, they received £4 million worth of grant funding, predominantly from Homes England, that will create a pathway for 18 to 25-year-olds ready to move on from Plymouth's higher supported accommodation, foster placements and supported living arrangements into homes focused on developing independent living skills. We've been really pleased to be part of this work. With a proven track record of supporting young people into thriving futures, YMCA Exeter and Young Devon have developed a unique pathway combining a full programme of volunteering, training, education and employment. And they've trialled it well in Exeter, and it's coming now to Plymouth. And that new supported housing pathway will provide a comprehensive support system for young individuals in Plymouth facing challenges in securing stable housing. YMCA are bringing their housing expertise to this partnership and will manage the housing element of the project, helping develop supportive, inclusive and energising communities where young people can truly belong, contribute and thrive. Young Devon will manage the daily support for each young person, ensuring a high level of wraparound services with a person-centred approach. Once young people move into the new housing, they will receive a high level of support from youth coaches. Individual coaching sessions, group activities, or engagement with wider organisations will be provided on a daily basis. Young Devon's groundbreaking supported housing pathway focuses on the combined outcomes of stability of their placement and enabling each young person to take part in volunteering, training, education, and employment opportunities which begin a pathway into longer term training and employment. This isn't just homes, this is actually transforming lives. Young Devon and YMCA Exeter are today asking that if any local business would like to contribute to the costs of furnishing the 47 new flats for those young people, they would be really pleased to be contacted. So please pass the message out there that there is an opportunity for local businesses to make a difference to those 47 young people. And we know some of those young people will have been care experienced, and this is going to be part of them transforming their future lives. I'd personally like to thank Cy Jones, the Joint Chief Executive of YMCA Exeter, Andy Moorman, the Young Devon Chief Executive, and Ruth Toon Holmes, our own Homelessness Strategic Programme Lead, for all the work they've done to bring this redundant building back into such amazing use. The newly named Breakwater Place is just a short walk from Plymouth Hoe. It'll be a fantastic place for 47 young people not to live in a hostel, but to each live in a self-contained flat with communal facilities and support available, and to call that home. I visited before and during the development, and I'm really looking forward to visiting again next week for the formal opening before young people start moving in. So once again, any businesses out there or any really philanthropic individuals who want to support this happening, please get in touch with me. I'll put you in touch, and it'd be great to make sure these flats are as fantastic as possible for every one of those young people moving in now and those that will move in once they move out. Thank you, Leader.
That's superb news, that. The Plymouth Area Business Council has I call it corporate social responsibility kind of wing, which they call the Plymouth Way. So I would suggest you get in touch with Craig Moore at Womble Bond Dickinson about that appeal, and see if we can give it legs. One more thing while Gary's here. The Casey Commission, I was at the LGA last week. Just wanted to make sure that we are feeding in as one of the local authorities through the Care Where We Live conversation with the LGA. I haven't seen it in front of us yet about what we're saying to it, so it might be for the next council cabinet meeting in 2 weeks' time. Perhaps if we could have an update, Gary, on what we're saying about the situation in Plymouth, what the view from Plymouth is, to make sure that we're feeding into the Casey review, okay? Thanks everybody for today. Thank you, Jake, for substituting at half time. And we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. And obviously council next Monday. Yes, indeed. Thank you.